30-minute reviews, Beware of Spoilers, and Exploring Hyperspace Lanes are all available ad-free. But if you want to support the show, you can go to bewareofspoilers.com and click the support button that's available on the Spotify website. Thank you. Welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I'm Adam.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here today for the end of 2023 top 10 list. We have a tradition where we do it a week late. That way we're the only people doing it still at this point. So before we get into that, so we have the results of last year's movie draft, which you got screwed a little bit by the strikes.
Delays.
Yeah.
By the strikes.
Well, the strikes and also Victoria Alonso's firing impacted your stuff. So to go back through it, let me screen share it so you can see the final scores. I think I have a screen share button on here now. Screen share options. I don't know what that button is. Either way, I'll just read it out. So first, I picked Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 with a Metacritic of 64 and a box office of 85. Your first pick was Dune Part 2, which got delayed out of 2023 into 2024. Yeah. I have a feeling we're going to have a similar pick in the first round today.
I think I should automatically get my delayed. Automatically get the delayed movies.
Okay, yeah. That's. I also wasn't going to pick Dune Part 2. I'm like, he's going to pick Dune Part 2. So I guess I didn't even put it on my list. So Dune got delayed out. Your alternate took the spot. That was Evil Dead Rise with a Metacritic of 69 and a box office point of 15 because it's got 150 million. My second pick was Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 with a Metacritic of 81 and a box office of 57. Your second pick was Fast X with a Metacritic of 56 and a box office of 70, which is a lot higher than I thought it was going to go.
The box office, I think, would be good, but the Metacritic being that high is great.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be, and that movie was not great. I picked Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, one of my two misfires, with a Metacritic of 58 and a box office score of 38. Your third pick was Oppenheimer, which I think was the strongest of any pick. 89 Metacritic, 95 box office. I picked Super Mario, 46 Metacritic, 100 box office, because we cap out at 100, where if it gets a billion, we get stopped counting. Your fourth was Hunger Games: A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Did you see that yet?
No, I probably won't see it either. Even though it technically helped me if I gave money to it.
Yeah, 54 Metacritic, which I think is under where it should be. 26 box office. If you see my head moving in weird ways, it's because my microphone's sitting on my laptop, so I gotta peer my head around to see. My fifth pick was Blue Beetle, which is another misfire. 61 Metacritic, 13 box office, which I think is the lowest box office score of anything on here. And your final pick was The Marvels with a 50 Metacritic and a 20 box office. My alternate pick, which did not get used, was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which was 86 Metacritic, 69 box office, for a total of 603 points for me, 544 points for you, which means you get the first pick this year. So you get to pick Dune first.
Yeah, that's what I was like.
We are going to modify the rules a little bit this year. We'll talk about that at the end when we do the new draft for next year. But only because I forget how much lower Metacritic trends than Rotten Tomatoes. Because Metacritic is an average. Rotten Tomatoes is just yes or no. So
yeah, that's why I always tell Metacritic is, I think, more accurate, or that it's like a bunch of scores from 1 to 10 instead of just being positive or negative.
Right. And then I think that's also why you end up with like Super Mario being a 46. Like, I'd say it's like a 6. So like, yeah, that kind of tracks. I mean, like a 5. Like, it's not a great movie. But yeah, I mean, I think it was sitting at like a 70 on Rotten Tomatoes now because it was.
Yeah, that was the thing. I feel like a lot of people, if it doesn't go above 70, they're like, "Oh, that movie's terrible," or "That movie's awful." It's like a 6 out of 10. It could still be an entertaining movie and like a good.
Oh yeah, and especially if it is a 6 out of 10 on Metacritic, it's like it could just be the movie is meant for like people who like that thing.
Hmm.
Like Five Nights at Freddy's, that movie was awful, but I'm not a Five Nights at Freddy's fan. Maybe someone who's deranged likes that movie, and that maybe that's for them.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe you watch an 8 hour long lore video on a video game that only takes 2 hours to beat.
that that movie was so bad. At one point, they're openly plotting murder, and it's like I don't think this is necessary for the plot. Like that movie was bad. But yeah, so I think the Marvels was the biggest confusion here as to how that did so poorly because that movie was not that bad.
Yeah. Do you think it's just burnout on just in general on like
I
Marvel
don't
stuff?
know if it's gonna be burnout. I know this year we're gonna have that like the allegations of superhero fatigue are not going anywhere because this year there's 5 movies, 3 of which are Sony, all of which are gonna be terrible.
Hmm.
So I don't think the allegations of superhero fatigue are going anywhere. I think what happened with the Marvels was it was just they didn't market it right. Um, and it's like when you look at back at like Captain Marvel, it was like this is our first female superhero, and that movie made $1 billion. They didn't
Yeah.
really focus on the most fun part of the movie, which is the dynamic between Carol and Monica and Kamala.
Hmm.
So it's like it just kind of looked kind of generic in all the trailers, and then you see it, and it's like, oh, this is really fun. Like it's just a fun superhero movie, and not this giant thing that's tying into everything else. It's just kind of fun and entertaining. It's like an hour and a half too, which is fantastic.
Ooh, that is a huge bonus.
Like, and it got one of my favorite line reads of the entire year, which is like they're falling, and then they anytime they use their powers, they switch. So like Kamala's falling out of the sky, and then her and Carol switch, so Carol just crashes into the ground, and Fury looks down and is like, "Oh shit, it's okay, it's just Carol." Like it's like he's really good in that movie too, which is great considering what that debacle that was Secret like and Secret Invasion didn't help either because that was really bad.
The
Um,
TV show.
yeah, um, but we have a lot of superlatives this year. I think we have the same amount as every year, but we do have a bunch. We have our top 10. Our top 10 is really more of a top 18 after we do the scoring. We have a lot of ties. So why don't we start with let's get disappointment of the year out of the way first.
Okay.
Then we can go right into positive after we get the disappointment out of the way. What was your disappointment of the year?
Mine was the last voyage of the Demeter, the Dracula movie that came out.
When you suggested this category, I'm like, he wants to talk about Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Yeah. I was so, and the reason I put most disappointing is because it's not the worst, because I'm sure there was worse movies that came out
Oh,
besides.
definitely.
This was by itself, it was just kind of like a mediocre horror, like slasher movie, I would say.
Mhm.
Um, and but for me, I was so excited for this movie because I had just read Dracula for the first time last year, and this is one of the coolest parts of the book is the ship because the ghost ship shows up, and then a wolf runs off of it, and then they go on, and everyone's dead, and the captain of the ship is found with his hands tied to the steering wheel, and he has like a diary left behind,
Mhm.
and then there is like a first person account of what went on, like on the boat with like Dracula hunting them basically as they go across the ocean. But in the movie, it's Dracula's just kind of like this evil like monster creature, and he's like
Yeah,
not
I didn't like the
he's like
design.
yeah, because I don't know why they did that. Where it would have been cheaper too, because they made him this like weird CGI
Yeah,
monster.
exactly.
I mean, he could have just been like
A
they could
guy.
have changed it. Obviously, they could have made it like a passenger ship,
Yeah,
and like because in the book that's a weird thing too. In the book, it's like a cargo vessel. It's not there's not really anyone else on it. But in
right,
the movie, they just added like random people onto it. So they should have just went all the way and just made it like a cruise ship and just
right.
made it like him like a passenger on it. And then you could have had Dracula being like fun Dracula and talking, and then
Mhm.
him hunting people too. And just it's a lot of missed opportunities, I think.
Yeah, that was the thing with this, where it's like, and I didn't watch the movie, but was what's his name good in it? Corey Hawkins, because he's someone I first saw him as Dr. Dre in Straight Outta Compton. I think that was a lot of people's first introduction.
He was good because he played the doctor guy, I think.
Yeah, he's great because he was also he's really he was in The Color Purple. He's really good. I mean, he's singing again in that, so he knows
I
what
would
he's
say he
doing.
was the best part because his character was actually doing like interesting things throughout the movie instead of just sitting around waiting to die.
Yeah, it was the kind of thing where it's like that. I remember when that movie got announced, I texted you and I was like, "This could be really cool." And then it was like the trailer came out and I was like, "Oh no."
Yeah, that's I was like, I'm not paying to see this in theaters. I waited till it went on to a streaming thing.
It went to Peacock, I assume.
I think that's
Um,
what it was because I had Peacock for free for at least a little bit.
yeah, because I think it's a Universal because it's a Universal monster, so
Mhm.
that
Yeah,
would
that's
track.
and it's again, it's like, why can't they just make a good one? Like, why?
Yeah,
Why
exactly.
is it so hard for Universal to make a good? Like, The Invisible Man was pretty good,
Yeah,
and I think that's it.
Lee Wannell is doing starts shooting this year. He's doing a Wolfman movie.
Hopefully,
That
that's good.
could be good.
The one with Anthony Hopkins is not very good.
No, but
Uh,
yeah, I really enjoyed The Invisible Man. I saw that in the theater, and I don't do horror movies in the theater usually. Um, but I saw Invisible Man. But yeah,
yeah,
Last Warrior to me was not something that like I was pumped for that, and then the trailer dropped, and I was like, oh, we'll find
and it
something else
wasn't
to do that
even like
week.
it was cheap jump scares. Like the gore wasn't good, and it
Yeah,
because it was just like mediocre across every. That's why I just think it was so disappointing because I just went in with such high expectations of what it could be.
yeah,
I felt that way. There's a movie that came out last year, 2 years ago, called Lycan that I felt the same way about.
like that doesn't sound familiar,
It
but
was a werewolf movie where they marketed it like it basically they were like, oh, this is gonna be like The Witch, but with werewolves. But then
huh,
it was not good.
and
Like
not
they
Robert
just
Eggers,
seemed like
so
a
you're missing
period
something
piece.
there.
That one was also kind of racist against like Romani people or like gypsies. It was all it was literally about how they're like evil and coming into Europe and like
Right.
ruining Europe.
Not right that that's how it is, but right that that's what that stereotype has been
Yeah, and it was
historically
just
for
funny
a
like
long time.
for years that's been like people have been shitting on that and then they just make
Yeah,
a new movie where it is that.
yeah. Um, I have a four-way tie for disappointment because it was not a good year for franchise movies. I'll just say it. We touched on one already, Dial of Destiny. I was very optimistic because new Indiana Jones movie. Harrison Ford seemed gung ho about it, and you had what was who's the director? Who did Logan? Who's behind it? And I was like, this
That
is
was I was very just like not into this, but then when you said the guy that directed Logan did it, I was like, okay, maybe
yeah,
this.
that could be good because Logan was fantastic, and even like Ford versus Ferrari was good.
Yeah, I did like Ford versus Ferrari.
This was just not it. It's not great. The action sucked and everything. Shazam: Fury of the Gods was another one that was a disappointment. Only because Shazam was so good, I was like, okay, this is gonna be great too. Um, it's not. The Flash was another one that I didn't have much expectations for going in because I didn't like Ezra Miller going into the movie, regardless of his personal life issues going on. It was like I didn't like his portrayal of Barry Allen in Justice League. So like it wasn't something that I was super gung ho about. But then it's like everyone's talking about, oh, this is the greatest movie ever. This is the greatest. Like Tom Cruise is saying it's the greatest superhero movie ever. Gunn is saying this is the best thing ever. Like Stephen King's like I don't like superhero stuff, but this is great. It was awful. And Barry doesn't actually learn a lesson in the movie, which is the other issue that I have with it. But we're not going to get into it. And the last one's Quantumania,
Yeah.
where it's just a CGI clusterfuck of a movie. Um, Even though Jonathan Majors is regrettably great in that movie as Kang the Conqueror, um, he's no longer Kang the Conqueror due to other issues. Um, but
Did
yeah,
they
so
announce a new Kang or do they
they haven't
just?
announced it yet.
But is that what they're gonna do? Where they're gonna keep Kang as the bad guy?
I think they're going to keep Kang. They're just going to. I mean, it's multiversal variants, so you can just have a guy who looks slightly different and have it be him. I heard Coleman Domingo is up for it. He was just in Rustin and The Color
Yeah.
Purple. That could be good, but
Yeah, and it's just how movies work. Like
yeah, just recast and move on.
people are, it's you can just recast someone. It's fine.
Yeah, and the thing is too, it's like it's not like it's something where there's a built-in thing for it, where
Yeah,
it's like there's like a million of them from across the multiverse. Just grab another one and then you're good.
yeah. They can just James Bond it too and just ignore it completely.
That's what they're gonna do. They're not gonna act like, oh, you look different from the last time we saw you.
That's what they should
Um,
do. You don't need to over explain
right.
anything. It would just
But
be
like
distracting.
also Loki gave them an out if they don't want to do Kang.
Oh, and just use
Um,
Loki again, or is there a different character in Loki?
no, what happened was at the end of Loki, Loki kind of spoilers for Loki for anyone who cares. I know you don't, but
Nope.
like he becomes the god of the timeline. So he's just at the center of the world tree, kind of keeping the timelines together. And the TVA changes what they do to keep track of variants of Kang. And what they do is they say, everything's under control. There was a variant of Kang in a 616 adjacent realm, and that would be Quantumania, but Ant-Man handled it. So they
Yeah.
have an out. They can just go a different direction. And the smart thing, I think, would be to just do Avengers 5 is Avengers vs. X-Men, Avengers 6 is Secret Wars. There you go.
That'd be popular too.
And easy name for people to understand what it is.
Mhm.
Because, like, what does the Kang Dynasty mean? It doesn't. Um, so, what's your game of the year? I say looking
Oh,
at the list like I don't already know.
my game of the year was the Resident Evil 4 remake that they did, the HD release, because I got a new computer, so then I was able to buy a bunch of new games. And the Resident Evil series is probably my favorite video game series. There
Mhm.
there are some absolutely awful ones like 5 and 6 and some of the weird variants.
Right.
But overall, I think it's so good. I think the stories they make are so amazing. And the fourth one, it wasn't just a direct remake. They actually changed some of the story and added stuff to it, so it felt like a different game.
Okay, good. That was my question because it got nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards, and I was like, that doesn't feel like a fair thing because Resident Evil 4 is already considered by a lot of people to be one of the greatest games ever made.
Yeah. It is my favorite. Before the remake, 4 is my favorite of the series. And just for probably nostalgia, the original 4 is still my favorite, but this remake was really good because they've been remaking all of them. So they did each day remake of 1, 2, 3, and now 4.
Right.
And the second one was really good. The third one was just kind of it wasn't that good. So it was good. The fourth one was probably the best of all the remakes.
Yeah. I think I bought the first Resident Evil, but I don't think it's a remake. I think it's just
It's
Resident
just an
Evil.
HD remaster.
Yeah, I think that's what I bought on
And
Steam.
that's very. I want to replay it because the story is so good, but that's the one with the fixed third person camera
Oh, is
where
it?
you walk into like you enter a room and the camera's fixed and you have like depending what angle the camera is at changes like the direction of the controllers too.
Oh,
So it
that's
can be
annoying.
very annoying and frustrating if you're not used to it.
Yeah, that's kind of a blind spot for me in a lot of ways, but I do know that Resident Evil 4 was considered one of the greatest games ever made, so a remake of it does make a lot of sense that it would continue to be a great game.
Yeah.
Did you run into an issue with microtransactions? I know they added microtransactions to it.
No, so most of my life I've just been very good at ignoring all those. Like,
Yeah.
so they for me it was just they always do it with like costumes and things. They did have DLC, but I think the Resident Evil the new DLCs are all worth paying for.
Mhm.
Because it's usually like another mini game that's at least like a 3 hour campaign.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
and they're usually pretty fun. Like one of the DLCs for Resident Evil 7 is just you just play as a melee character, so you have to actually fist fight the zombies. So it's like actually funny, but it's like fun to play too.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna buy it, but it's expensive.
But yeah, I
Um,
think I got it. There was like a Christmas sale, and that's how I bought it.
yeah, there was a lot of games this year. That was the big issue, is that this
Mhm.
was in some ways the best year for gaming, but in most other ways one of the worst years for gaming.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of industry consolidation, lots of layoffs industry wide. It was not good all around. But in terms of quality of games that came out, this is one of the strongest years in a very long time.
Mhm.
Um, so this one kind of fell by the wayside because I never played the original. I'm like, let me focus on what was it at the time.
I think you can get the original on Steam for probably like under $20.
We'll probably download it too because it's a
Yeah, you
GameCube
probably
game.
just
If you have a
yeah,
Dolphin, you can probably play it for free. Um,
I had
allegedly.
I got Resident Evil 4 for the Wii, and I had a gun
Huh.
attachment where it was a pistol that you put the Wii controller into, and it was like a gun that
Oh,
you had.
I had World at War for the Wii, and I refused to use the gun attachment. I'm like, this is
I thought it
dumb.
was the coolest thing ever.
I sucked at World at War Online too. I tried, and it's like, oh, this is not good. Um, but yeah,
Actually, and the new Call of Duty was absolutely terrible. It was like
Modern Warfare 3.
yeah, probably one of the laziest released games of the year.
Yeah, I haven't played a Call of Duty game since Advanced Warfare was the last one I bought because that one came with the remake or the remaster of the original Modern Warfare.
Mhm.
And it was because they said if you pay the $80, you'll get the remaster of Modern Warfare. We're never releasing it outside of that. And then 3 months later, they released it for $30 outside of that, and I was like, oh, cool, all right, not buying any more Call of Duty now.
Yeah, I bought the newest. They redid the first Modern Warfare. I got that one, and that one was pretty good. And then
Right.
the other two have been just awful. Like the campaign isn't a real campaign. You enter an open area and then you kill all the enemies, and then a cutscene will play. So there's no like story as you're playing.
Well, because like that's the thing is that I think that what Activision has kind of realized is that the campaign doesn't matter to what they're making money on with Call of Duty, which is why I'm
Yeah.
slightly concerned about GTA 6.
Yeah, that was my big concern. But that's why I think Resident Evil kind of gives hope because that's purely like single player
Right.
story mode, and
And
then
there have
that.
been plenty of games like that, where it's like Spider-Man is a purely
Mhm.
single player experience. The Last of Us is a purely single player experience. Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's what I want to play that one now that I have a computer that can.
Hogwarts Legacy is fun. I have it for Steam. Very easy to forget about it though. Um, my game of the year is Hi-Fi Rush though. That was a tough choice. It was either that or Spider-Man 2.
Mhm.
Because Spider-Man 2 was the first game that I've played that felt like it couldn't have come out on previous gen hardware. Um,
Mhm.
Again, haven't played Alan Wake 2, which apparently is similar, but and I didn't play Baldur's Gate 3, which is a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of
I
people's
want to
game of the year.
Baldur's Gate. I want to get Alan
Yeah.
Wake. I will not get because I had the original one, and
Mhm.
then they made you pay to finish the game, and then ever since then I was like, I'll never play this
Oh,
game.
so because I saw it on Epic Games on sale when I was buying Kingdom Hearts for the fourth time, and they had American Nightmare. So American Nightmare is the end of Alan Wake 1.
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't know
It
that.
might be. I just because I remember I played the original game on Xbox, or Xbox 360, and then you get to the end, and then it's like, all right, buy this DLC to actually finish the game, and
Oh,
it
that's
like ends
annoying.
on a cliffhanger, and I was like, I will never play this. I'm done.
That's annoying.
And then yeah, I've held a grudge since then. And then when they released this new one, I was like, I'm not playing it. I refuse to play it.
I've heard good things about it in so much as it it feels like again next gen game. The reason that Hi-Fi Rush won it over Spider-Man and Legend of
Mhm.
Zelda was because of what's it called? Because it came out, it had no bugs, it was a stealth release in the middle of January, and it's a rhythm action game that looks and plays kind of like a combination of like Theat rhythm for Final
Mhm.
Fantasy mixed with Beautiful Joe.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember playing Beautiful Joe. That was a fun
yeah,
game.
it looks like that, where it's like that cell shaded kind of art style. You run around, you beat the crap out of robots and stuff. It is so fun, and you do it in beat with the music. And there's
Oh, okay.
licensed music
That's
from
the
like
beat
Nine Inch
rhythm
Nails and
part.
stuff like that. And if you hit on the beat, you get an attack boost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's a really fun game. It's a really fun rhythm game, and that stuck with me throughout the year. Um, Again, Spider-Man and Legend of Zelda were the only two that came close to unseating it. Um, and Zelda is just that fucking physics engine in that game was something else. Um, did you play? You played Tears of the Kingdom, right?
Yes, yeah, I have a Switch now. Oh, yeah, I like for me it's just not my favorite game. I like the first one better, the
Yeah.
new two new Zelda games. It was still very good though.
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed it.
For me,
But
the more customization, I'm like the person that is kind of wasted on, where I'm like, I can just skip this.
yeah, see that's the thing where it's like if the I get overwhelmed very easily if you give me a big like open world where I'm like,
Yeah.
all
It's
right,
like paralysis by choice.
yeah, I'm gonna have there's too much for me to do, and I'm gonna end up doing the wrong thing that the game doesn't want me to do, like which is like I bought Breath of the Wild on release day. I still have not beaten that game, but I've logged several
Mhm.
hundred hours in it.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, so yeah, the Hi-Fi Rush is mine.
Yeah.
So
That was
series
my
of
issue
the
with Pikmin 4, is that in Pikmin 4, if you try to explore or like go off, the
Mhm.
game puts a literally line on the floor is like, this is how you beat the game, and it like just directs you where to walk to beat the game.
Yeah, that was. I didn't play Pikmin 4 yet. Either. I played the demo. The demo was pretty cool.
I think 3 is I like much more than
3 is the
4.
best of them.
I think 2 is the best overall. 3 added a bunch of features like the co-op where two people can play together and like
Right.
go off and do separate things like groups of Pikmin. In 4, if you play with 2 people, they just like can throw stuff. You can't like play separately.
Right. Um, yeah, I bought 1 and 2. I haven't installed them yet because when I was on my because that's I've gotten back into Kingdom Hearts in a major way in the last month or so, trying to 100% Chain of Memories because I'm a sadist. Um, Series of the year. I have
Yes.
not watched your choice.
I think I picked this one for last year too, the season
It's
that came out
possible.
last year. So mine was the final season of Barry on HBO. And this is probably one of my favorite modern shows. I think it's only 5 seasons and then they ended it. And
Right.
it's so funny and so it's kind of like BoJack Horseman, where it's very funny and then they kind of get serious sometimes, but in a realistic way, or it
Mm.
feels natural to the show.
I know he
Um,
goes to jail this season. That's all I know. People at work were
Yeah,
talking
the
about
the
it.
end of the last season, he gets caught, and then he's in prison in this season. And a lot of it is like even though he's the main character of the show, and I think this is kind of it goes further than what Breaking Bad does with the antihero, and it's
Mm.
kind of the consequences of who he is kind of finally catch up to him, and
Right.
like even though he still sees himself as a good person, it's what is he actually doing? Is he actually a good person?
Right. I'm gonna ask if it's like this. Is it like that episode of The Amazing World of Gumball where all the things that they had done over the course of the show catch up with them?
Not to that extent. It's not like as far back reaching, but it's like there's a big time jump too, and then it's interesting like what happened. It's like a 4 or 5 year time jump happens in the middle of the
Huh.
season. And it gets very weird and trippy. Like some parts are very ambiguous, like about what's going on. So it kind of almost like Twin Peaks, where it's not really clear what's happening. It gets very strange.
Right. Yeah. That's one of those shows where it's like I mean to watch it. Like that and Succession are
Yeah,
two
and all the
shows.
episodes are only they're all half an hour long episodes too.
See, that's the thing that really like,
So you can
and
just
that
kind
might
of
get
float
Barry
through.
to jump the list a little bit because I
Yeah.
got like I finished the first season of The Bear, and I'm into season 2 when I'm not watching Dragon Ball Z because I've started Dragon Ball Z. Um,
I'm about to start Dragon Ball Z for the first
yeah, that is I forgot how much filler there is in Dragon Ball
time.
Z. If you're watching on Funimation, you may be better off watching Kai because they cut all the filler out.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
actually kind of like all the filler stuff.
yeah. 'Cause I was like, I don't remember any of this. The last time I watched it would have been when Kai was running in first run on Nicktoons Network. But it's there's a lot of filler I forgot about.
Mm.
Um, I there are 40 episodes in season 1. I'm like 4 episodes into season 2 now. But yeah, the bear I was one that almost made the list, but for me it was The Last of Us. The Last of Us was never gonna not be the series of the year this year.
That was
Um,
my definitely my top three.
yeah, it like for me when I do this, it always comes down to what do I think had the best individual episodes,
Hmm.
and it's like that's what it usually comes down to for me. And like last year, the reason why Andor won because there was like a 4 episode stretch of Andor where it's like this is the best hour of television of any show, and they had 4 of those in a row. The
Yeah.
Last of Us had it similar with the finale with Left Behind, the one where she's at the cult, and the
Hmm.
one with Bill and Frank,
Yes. Yeah.
like which Nick Offerman won the Emmy for last night. Um, because like that, and then the one with the 2 kids, the one who gets bitten, like
Hmm.
that episode's so good too. Like the show is just near perfect.
Yeah. And
Um,
I'm someone I didn't really like the game that much, and I love the
no, I
show.
didn't either.
But it's
Um,
that's I think we said it before. It's I just don't like sneaking games.
yes,
It's all on me. It's nothing to do with the quality of the game. It's just not my type of game.
because that was the thing where it's like I think when I got the PlayStation 3 I think we were living off campus at the time and I got the PlayStation
Mhm.
3 and the PlayStation 4 it came with The Last of Us and I was like all right I've heard a lot of good things about this, let me try it, and I'm like oh no.
Yeah, I just
um
kept dying immediately.
yeah, I'm like all right, well I'll go back to playing Kingdom Hearts.
Mhm.
But yeah, like The Last of Us, like this made me almost go and buy the game on Steam to give it another try, but I heard the Steam version was broken to all hell, so that
Yeah,
did
I remember
not.
they got shit on for that, where they
Yeah.
they did just a lazy like I forgot like adaptation or
Yeah,
something.
the PC ports are not always great.
That's it. Yeah.
But yeah, The Last of Us is definitely the best show of the year that I saw this year. Um, Now you didn't give me an honorable mention. Do you have an honorable mention for anything that you wanted
Or
to do before we get into the top 10, top 18?
no, not really. So my issue with the I really only saw like 11 or 12 new movies this year. So
Well, my honorable mention is not a movie. It's a person.
oh, okay. If I had to do any, um, I
Do you
actually
want me
might
to do mine
just
while you think about it?
yeah, you can do yours and I'll think about
All
mine.
right, so my honorable mention before we get into the top 10, I want to give an honorable mention to Daisy Ridley as an actress. I think that the sequel trilogy has stronger talent. I think John Boyega is great. Outside of playing Finn, I think Oscar Isaac is a world-class talent. Daisy Ridley, I hadn't really seen in anything besides Star Wars. This year, I saw her in two movies, and both times she was fantastic. And they're both movies that most people aren't going to really think about again. Sometimes I think about dying. Didn't come out yet. It comes out in 2 weeks, but I saw it at Sundance last year. Um, she plays a like an introverted office worker who just kind of
Mm.
coasts through life. She's really good in that, and that I'm going to see that movie in the theater again, even though I've already seen it. Um, and The Marsh King's Daughter, where she plays the daughter of this guy who he kidnapped her mother, raped her, and then she gave birth to Daisy Ridley's character, and then he brainwashed this little girl. So then they escape, and then Ben Mendelsohn's the dad, and he breaks out of prison and starts terrorizing her again. It's a solid psychological thriller, um, but she's really good in that too. Um, Hopefully she doesn't get locked into the Star Wars trap again now that she's going back and doing this movie with Lucasfilm for New Jedi Order. Hopefully that we get to see her do other stuff, but I think that like the when we talk about the acting ability of people in the Star Wars movies, like we forget that the original trilogy doesn't have like if they're not in Star Wars, we don't know who any of these people are besides Harrison Ford.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there's a little bit more in the prequels, so like Natalie Portman was already big from Leon the Professional, and
And like Ewan McGregor kind and well, Liam
exactly. He
Neeson.
he can act well too, and Liam Neeson's an actor. And like, but I think of the newcomers, quote unquote, for the sequels, I think this is the strongest crop of talent because I don't think there is a weak
Oh, yeah.
link besides the scripts of the three movies that they started.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. That's like, and it almost like the opposite is true. Opposite is true for the originals because Mark Hamill's not a good actor,
No, he's not.
at least when he was
He's a good
younger.
voice actor. He does good voice
Yeah,
work.
he became a good voice actor, but
Right.
he was not a good actor when he was younger.
He's good as the trickster in the '90s Flash TV show. Um, but yeah. So do you have something you wanted to shout out as an honorable mention?
Actually, I'll do another. Can I just do another video game then?
Yeah, sure.
I'll do the Dead Space
The Dead
remake.
Space remake.
Yeah, that was another. Even though I think just how video games, the way you play them, I don't think have changed much from like
Mhm.
15 years ago. So now these are the perfect games to do these remasters of because the control scheme is still the same, like two analog sticks and or
Yeah.
two sticks and stuff. And they did the same thing where they changed the story and like expanded on it. So it's I think it's much better and it's true. I think that's the scariest game ever made too.
I've
They're
been meaning to play it because it's
truly
included
scary.
in Game Pass, I think. I think it's included in PC Game Pass because PC Game Pass gives you EA Play. I've been meaning to play it. I've never played Dead Space before.
It's so good, yeah. The later ones, the story gets insane and they get horrible, but the first two are both very good.
Right. Yeah, I that's another one that I wanted to play, but I haven't gotten around to yet. Um, I do know a lot of the team that worked on that went on to the Callisto Protocol, and that game was not very good.
It has a
Um,
cool name.
yeah, but it was very anticipated going into this year, and then it came out and it just kind of was meh. Like I think that's the big thing for video games this year is that even the worst games are not. There are very few really bad games. Like there was Gollum, there was that King Kong game, there
Oh,
was
yeah,
that
King
that that
Kong.
oh, that openly scam game that came out like 2 weeks ago. Um, but
The
like
zombie one.
there weren't very many huge titles that were bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I would say
at
just
worst they were
probably Call of
okay.
Duty.
Yeah, that's probably the only one. But if you're only playing Call of Duty for the multiplayer,
then yeah, no one
was it that
cared.
bad? Exactly. Um, so
They should
I
do
think
it like Fortnite, where they just do online now.
well they have Warzone for that. That's what I'm confused
Yeah,
about. Is
I'm
I'm
just saying
not
if
like
if
as
they
someone
just kept
who's
releasing new seasons of Warzone instead of
right,
trying to say they're releasing a new game, I don't think anyone would shit on them. But then they wouldn't
right,
make a bunch of money when buying it.
because
It's
they
just
couldn't because then they can't charge you the $60 up front to get into the
yeah.
game.
That's
Like
a crazy thing too, is that all the Call of Duty games are all still $60 no matter
yeah,
what. They like don't put them on sale.
yeah, like the only company I think that could really get away with that is Nintendo. The
Mhm.
Nintendo, they don't drop their prices usually. The Nintendo, like once the game comes out, that's it. They actually appreciate in value, the
Yeah.
longer that they're out. Where it's like you can't get a Pokemon game for less than 70 now, if it's not
Mhm.
one that's on a current gen console and still in production. But
I'll go on eBay and sometimes be able to get like newer games
mhm.
for a little bit off, but that's it.
Yeah, I don't have like I just don't. I don't know. I feel like they need to come up with a solution to this that's more user friendly. And I think the issue is that as players, we've come to allow this. Like it's our own
Yeah,
fault
it was
we're in this situation
place.
because we allowed it to get to this point.
Yeah, and especially pre-ordering, where people are
Yes,
paying extra to just get a game like
or
digitally, and it's
or play it
crazy.
3 days early.
Yeah, and it's gonna be all buggy and not working.
Exactly, and it's like my thing is like the digital versus physical. I think for video games, it's better to play it digital, but
Mhm.
you run the risk of the game being unlisted.
Yeah, well, I think Steam is pretty good about that.
Right. Once you add it to
As
your library, it's there forever,
yeah,
even if it's unlisted. Like you
as,
can't buy Rocket League on the Steam store anymore, but it's still in my library because I paid for it before it
mhm.
went free to play.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that that's going to be a fun one. So into our top 18, um, because we had some ties. We had two things that both of us picked, and they're reasonably high because both of us picked them. So the way that this works, for anyone who doesn't remember from last year, we each submit a top 10 list. We do number one is worth 10 points, number two is worth 9 points, all the way down where 10 is worth 1 point, and then we add up the scores, and that's what we get here. Now, because we both submitted 10, we didn't have to do what we did for the DC ranking where we averaged it. This is just
Mhm.
sum of the two, which means we have it's bookended by a sole last place and a sole first place, but everything else is ties in the middle.
Okay.
So number 10 is the sole last place. That's mine. I picked the Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes um, as my number 10. I did not expect anything from this movie because I really did not like the book. Um, the book focuses too much on Snow's inner monologue because it is about Snow becoming Snow. And when you
Mhm.
have that level of inner monologue, a lot of his motivations are transparent because we know it because he's telling us.
Yeah.
Um, and when they cut that for the movie, it just works so much better because they can play it more mysterious and it works better. Um, and I realize it's a prequel, so saying this feels a little bit silly, but the ways that they are subtle about tying things from the original four movies back to this is really smart. Um, where it's like one of the recurring themes during the games is don't lose control of the arena. If you lose control of the arena, you will lose control of the nation. Like, and
Mhm.
they illustrate that throughout. Um, I'm gonna spoil this for you. I mean, I know you probably don't care, but at the end, they when it's he falls in love with his tribute from District 12, who's Lucy Gray, who's played by Rachel Zegler, who's doing a Southern accent, and I'm not entirely sure why. Um, like a thick Southern accent, and I'm like, acting is all about choices, and you made a choice there. So they fall in love. Then he ends up in District 12 as a peacekeeper, and they're planning to run away. And there's a whole thing that goes on, but he gets the chance to be able to go back and resume his old life um, without missing a beat. And
Mhm.
she turns on him and is like,
Mhm.
"Well, you're not going to do that." And the way she tricks gets away from him, or we don't know if she gets away if he kills her or not, is he gets bitten by a snake, so he's hallucinating. but there's a bunch of mockingjays all flying around, and they're all singing the song that she wrote about those two people that got hung, and it's that one from the third movie
Hmm.
where the hanging tree, which is the big one that they're singing when they go and attack the what's it called, the water, the hydroelectric plant.
Yeah.
Like and it's him shooting in the air while these birds are singing the song to him. And I'm like, that is just perfect
Yeah,
for
they
how
set
this.
it up.
Yeah, and it's just, and there was one line in the book that didn't make it into it that would have made it a little bit better, where it's in the prologue where he's talking about getting dressed and it's all his inner monologue, and he goes, I have to be careful because if I let the little inconsequential things get to me in this way, it'll be my undoing.
Oh yeah.
It's just that movie was so much better than I thought it was going to be, so I figured it had to make
Mhm.
the list. We got a two-way tie at number nine.
Oh.
You picked the Pope's Exorcist. I picked the Holdovers.
Mhm.
Um, you want to go first for the Pope's Exorcist because I did not see this movie.
Oh yeah. So this was a ho- I guess horror movie based off a true story with I forget who it is. Uh Hold on. But it's based off there was this guy, this priest that was like the head exorcist
Mhm.
of of the Vatican. And Italians love getting exorcisms um more than like any other country. They like for
Huh.
almost every single thing. So this guy used to just give exorcisms all the time. So Russell Crowe plays him and he has a very thick Italian accent.
See, and that's where it kind of lost me a little bit as soon as I saw the trailer. I was like, okay.
uh This movie, it's more funny, I guess, than anything else because it's also historical fiction.
Mhm.
So in this movie, they go to this church that this family's renovating, and there's possessions and everything. But then they find out this is actually where the Spanish Inquisition started, and the priest that started the Spanish Inquisition was actually possessed by Satan, by one of the armed generals of hell. So actually, the Spanish Inquisition wasn't the church's fault. It was because they were being ruled by a demon, and that's what actually happened. So don't blame the church.
Oh well, okay. At least it's a rational thing. And you
Yeah.
said
And
this is based on a true story. You said.
but it's crazy because it literally becomes a superhero movie where they have to gather like artifacts to battle with the demons and people are flying around and there's like laser beams shooting out of stuff.
Yeah, it's the
It's like it's one of the most fantastical horror movies I've ever seen. And they just keep hitting you with like this is real, this is based off a true story.
it's the kind of thing where it's like I saw that trailer for it, and it was like between that and Nefarious, which was another like it was a mid-April movie, and I'm like, oh, this can't possibly be good. It's like it's a
No.
mid-April horror movie. It's not even like it's April Friday the 13th, where it's like, all right, we're gonna dump out a horror movie on Friday the 13th. It's like, no, it's just April. Put out the horror movie now. It's fine.
Mhm.
Like I, I, I don't know.
I would still
I
recommend.
heard that accent and I was like, okay.
He's
Um,
he's actually the best part. He actually is like
really?
entertaining to watch.
Well, yeah, because it seems like he's having fun. Like when you have someone doing that level of accent, it's kind of it's like when you see like any of the Kenneth Branagh, like Agatha Christie ones, you're like, all right, he's just here to have
Mhm.
fun and a silly mustache. Like,
Yeah, that's what this is, and he like has another Spanish priest friend that like is they're just running around together.
is it
I
Sean
forget
Connery
who
doing
it
his
is. Oh yeah, when
as
he was
as the
Spanish.
yeah as the Spaniard? Um, yeah, I did not see the Pope's Exorcist. That was not something that crossed my desk. My number nine was The Holdovers, which was Alexander Payne's latest movie, um, which was Paul Giamatti leads it. Divine Joy Randolph is also in it. She's really good too. And Dominic Sessa is he's the kid in it.
Mhm.
This is his first acting gig ever, um, and he's just phenomenal in this movie. It's about this guy. He's a teacher at a boarding school. He gets stuck keeping track of the holdovers, the kids who don't
Mhm.
have a place to go over Christmas holiday. Um, which in this case ends up being this one kid. Um, and it's about them bonding and getting to know each other over the course of the 2 weeks. Um, they take a field trip to Boston. You know, it's got a lot of great comedic moments because Paul Giamatti can do that. But also, like, I've never seen a movie so perfectly encapsulate the emotion of disappointment
Mhm.
as one scene in this movie. Have you seen this or no?
No, I do want. I really like
I'm not gonna
Aslan,
spoil it for you
and I
now.
like Paul
There's a scene
Giamatti.
like midway through the movie where it just like the word disappointment is just encapsulated by it. Um, it's heartbreaking because of what happens with, I'm not going to spoil it, Divine Joy Randolph's character before the movie starts and what she's dealing with through the entire thing. It's just so well done, and
Mhm.
it's about what better thing for Christmas than about the story of two people bonding over what is probably the most easy to bond over thing, having clinical depression.
Yeah.
Um, that's what the entire movie's about. It's fantastic. It's really like it's one of those things where it's like on one hand it's a great time, on the other hand it's really heartfelt and got some great emotional moments.
Mhm.
Um, Number 8, we have a two-way tie between Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and Insidious: The Red Door.
Yes, Insidious 3.
Yes, 5.
Oh, five. Yeah. Well, it's the third one. It's the third one in the continuing story, but the fifth one overall, counting the prequels.
Yeah, I've seen that kid in Insidious in two good movies, and that was Iron Man 3 and Jurassic World. Besides that, I've not seen him in a good movie.
Well, now he's like 20.
Well, he was in The Whale too.
Yeah.
He was not good in The Whale, though The Whale was not good in general.
Yeah. This movie was not very good, but there's one thing in it that I liked a lot that put it in my top this far up is the kid and the dad eat instant oatmeal dry, like without any water in it.
You put it as your number 7.
And when I was little, I used to do that all the time. I did feel represented by this movie.
Representation matters.
Yeah, I mean, other parts of it were, I don't know, there were some interesting things like going back and forth between these like parallel dimensions, and some of that was kind of cool. But
Yeah,
um,
I figure
the
there
part was
is a door in play here somewhere because I saw a trailer for it once. Um, they didn't give it a lot of play though. Like the Nun 2, I saw the trailer for all the time, but they did not. I only saw the Insidious trailer like twice or three times, and
oh
I know
yeah,
the
the
movie's a
Nun
lot.
is part of the Conjuring universe.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah,
There's like 8 or 9 of those.
there's a lot of those.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, this is a movie that like I saw the trailer for. I'm like, all right, cool, Patrick Wilson again. You know, he's cool.
He directed the movie too and wrote a song for the credits.
Oh,
And it's that part's funny too. That's worth seeing it for.
is it a is it a good song?
No, it sounds like the end of Tusk where they made that like fake dramatic song to play over, but he's
Oh
serious.
yeah. Oh God.
And it's like a very deep emotional song about like fatherhood, but but it just sounds like him talk singing like over it.
It, it's like it sounds like
And
you're describing.
Rose Byrne's in it for a total of like 5 minutes. Their character's gonna divorce off screen so she didn't have to be in the movie.
Probably for the best for her then.
Yeah, because she basically is just like, I'm not like you're annoying now, because he's been like possessed by a demon and lost all his memory, and she's like, I can't deal with this. We're getting a divorce.
I can't deal with your possession.
Yeah, because that happens in the second one. He gets possessed by a demon, and now he can't remember anything.
I think Insidious is the weakest of that. The Conjuring, Sinister. I don't know why I lumped the three of them together. It's like Insidious,
Well,
Sinister, and The Conjuring,
they're all made by James Wan.
and they all came out within like a 3 year period.
I think the first Insidious I like better than the first Conjuring. They
Oh,
both
I
get
love the first Conjuring,
they both get bad. Yeah.
and I'm not a big horror person. That first Conjuring movie, I was like, this is great. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I had Across the Spider Verse, and you're probably confused as to why I have it this low, um, because I blew that movie when it came out. Um, I think it's good. I think that the opening, where it's entirely in Gwen's universe and it's got that watercolor look, is really cool.
Mhm.
I think Spider-Man India, his world's really cool. All the Spider Society stuff's really cool. The ending is where the movie kind of loses me a little bit, and not
Mhm.
specifically the, again, spoilers, alternate universe Miles, where he's the Prowler that he comes face to face with. The fact the
Yeah.
movie ends like 3 times and it keeps going. Like there are like 3 or 4 notes that the movie's like, all right, this is a good ending point, and then there's another scene after that, and I'm like,
Hmm.
enough. This movie's 2.5 hours. I don't need it to go like this. Like that, and this movie doesn't have a moment like the first one. There's that scene where he gets his powers fully for the first time, and he jumps off the
Yeah.
building. Like that is probably one of the most iconic scenes in a comic book movie ever. At this point, this movie
Yeah.
doesn't have anything like that. Like, yeah, you get to see Insomniac Spider-Man in the movie briefly, and Yuri reprises his role. That's cool, and like, yeah, Donald Glover shows up in live action, like from reprising his role from Spider-Man: Homecoming, and there's archive footage that implies that we will eventually get um, Miles as Venom, and eventually Tom Holland as Venom, and all that kind of stuff. And it tries to fix the post-credit scene from Morbius in a really weird way. Um,
Hmm.
but it, that ending is kind of where it puts it down a little bit for me. Other than that, though, the movie's fantastic. Like everything in Gwen's universe in the beginning is great. Like
Hmm.
it's all water. Like, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's all done in watercolors. Like
Yeah,
then
I
it
haven't
goes to
seen that
Miles'
one.
universe, and it's all regular. Then it goes to um, where Spider-Man India is, and that's all a different art style. Then it goes to at the end, he's in the alternate universe, Earth 42. That's kind of like comic book cel shaded, kind of a little bit. Um, and it's cool. It's just not, the ending is where it loses me a little bit. Number 7, I've actually seen your pick here. Creed 3 and The Color Purple are tied.
Mhm.
You want to go first for Creed 3? Which almost made
Yeah,
my
so
list, but it got bumped
I
off.
just watched this a couple weeks ago because I was flying so much for the holidays, so then I
Yeah.
caught up on a bunch of movies on planes. So I watched this one on a plane. I think I liked all the Creed movies, so this one I think I like this one better than the second one, but the first one is still my favorite of the
Yeah.
Creed movies. Um, the only thing I didn't really like about this one was that they put Drago in it still. I thought that like not everything has to be so
See, that's the
interconnected.
thing. You know who Drago should have been? Drago should have been Mr. T.
Yeah, they could have. There's could have been so many other callbacks they could have done without just making it a callback to the last movie, and it was like the
Right.
thing people didn't like about the last movie.
And the thing is too, it's like when you look at what Damien's doing in this movie, Damien fights dirty. That's his whole thing, is that he doesn't
Mhm.
follow. That's what Mr.
Mr.
T
T.
did
Yeah,
in Rocky 3. He fought dirty. It's like, okay, so here we need someone who can teach you how to fight dirty. Here he is. But no, it's just Drago again.
yeah,
I do like that Drago. Like I like that. I mean, Dragon Ball Z fan. I'm a huge fan of the fact that everywhere he goes, the bad guy becomes a friend
yeah.
after. Like I do appreciate that. Like in 2 when he goes and he becomes friends with the guy that he fought in at the end of 1, and it's like
Mhm.
just this thing where it's like he just gets this ever growing entourage of former enemies. Big fan of that. Um,
I guess that can't happen now, even though it does kind of happen at the end of this movie. But I don't
no, it
know if
can't.
he's gonna come back again for the fourth one.
No, Damien's gonna die in a car accident off screen.
Yeah, off screen. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like that fight at the end of this is what was the thing that stood out. Like that all in one take fight.
It was that was with the stadium and everything like that. That all
Yeah,
looked really. They did boost it like they kept from the first to the second to the third. The
yeah.
fights gotten like bigger and bigger.
And you know who directed this one?
Oh, Michael B. Jordan did
Yeah, he
right.
directed it himself. Um,
I always think he's younger than me, but he's older than I am.
yeah. Well, I think it's just he
He's
didn't really
funny because
get
he's like
big.
yeah,
The
because
Fruitvale
he's like
Station was 2014.
34, right? Something like that.
I don't know how old he is. I know Fruitvale Station was like 2014.
Oh yeah, he's 36. I guess he's aged very well. I just
Yes.
for some reason I thought he was younger.
No. Yeah. He's. Yeah. I think he's dating Steve Harvey's daughter too.
Nice.
Um, which is why it's ridiculous. You see him in that mustache that he does. Sometimes it's like, why are you doing that?
Oh yeah, he's the
What?
Steve Harvey.
Yeah. What does that say about him, about your girlfriend? Um, but yeah, I think that the what's it called? This is a really good one. I bumped it out for my pick in the next number up,
Mhm.
'cause I didn't want to have two fighting movies, um, which is weird considering. Oh no, I only have one comic book movie. Never mind. But yeah, I didn't want to have, especially that close together. And I think that the thing that kind of took it out of my top 10 too was the fact that we're not gonna see Jonathan Majors again.
Yeah, yeah, that because they do set it up where it's like, oh, they're gonna be friends.
Because that ending is so strong too, where it's like, he beats him and he gets and he reclaims the title.
Yeah.
And that scene at the end where with the vulnerability at the end, I love that. Because like that was like my favorite part of Top Gun Maverick too. That scene in the middle of the movie where he goes and talks to Iceman.
Mhm.
Like that's the strongest part of that movie to me. This is the same thing where you get that moment at the end of the two of them like, yeah, we shouldn't like you
Yeah,
went
and it's
too
like
far. I should have done more to try and help you.
and it's
Like,
the spirit of the original Rocky,
yeah,
where it's not just about the boxing like
right.
movie. There's like it's the characters.
Exactly. You care about both of them
Mhm.
by the end. Even though Damien does some things in the movie that are terrible, you still end up caring about him.
Yeah.
Um, I had The Color Purple at number 7, which there were a few musicals this year um, that were not terrible. Like Wonka was pretty good. And
Mhm.
Wonka, speaking of Creed, does that thing that the first Creed does, where they hold off on the theme until the last possible minute, and it hits so well because they held it till the perfect moment. Like, because when you see Wonka, you anticipate they're gonna play Pure Imagination at some point in there. Like,
Yeah.
you know it's coming. They hold it till the end of the movie, and it just hits so well. Even though Timothy Chalamet, I don't know who told him he can sing.
Yeah, I can't
Um,
imagine
they
being
were
as
wrong though.
yeah, that
Um,
being as
that was a
like
bad decision.
emotional as Gene Wilder trying to sing it.
Yeah. But the thing is, Gene Wilder only has the one song. He's not singing the entire way through the movie.
Oh, I didn't know they did that. That's rough. That's rough.
Yeah, like the movie opens with him singing, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
um,
For me, my hey, is Wonka on your list at all?
no, it's not.
I just thought it was weird that wouldn't the old people in the original Wonka movie be talking about how Willy Wonka was like flying and like giving
See,
people
that's
all
the
this
thing
crazy
too.
shit?
That's the
I was
thing
like,
too.
why?
Why
He's
did he get
presented
away
as
from
this.
that?
Yeah, he's presented as this loner that lives inside of its factory and no one knows anything about, and it's just a chocolate factory. And then once they go inside, it's crazy, but no one
What I
knows.
think this is this is less a prequel in the way of the Star Wars prequels. I think it's more of a
Mhm.
prequel in the way of Cruella,
Okay, where it's just like a
where
retelling or
where it's
yeah.
like it kind of is a prequel, but also it's more inspired by
Mhm.
than it is like if it ties in, great. If not, it's not a huge deal.
Yeah.
Um, but my number 7 was actually The Color Purple, which is they made a Broadway musical based on the book, or based on the movie, based on the book. Then they did an adaptation of that as a
I've seen the
movie.
mini series, like the TV one
I have not seen that.
with
I've
those.
seen bits and pieces of the movie Spielberg directed.
That's where I've
Um,
seen that one. I thought that
yeah,
was a mini series. It's very long.
yeah. That this makes the list because the choreography is fantastic.
Mhm.
The music is great, and I think that the production design and the costume design is great.
Mhm.
Like it's just like they it does what Wonka does, but a million times better because it feels more grounded, more colorful. Like it's and the story's better. I think it's a story about people finding small bits of happiness in just constant misery.
Yeah.
Like it's and Taraji P Henson is great, and I didn't know she could sing, which is weird because she was an Empire, but like she's really good in that too. But yeah, The Color Purple, it's still in theaters. I would recommend that's a good that's a good theater movie because it's designed
Mhm.
as a spectacle.
I do like
Um,
musicals. I might see that one.
are you gonna see Mean Girls this week?
No, I probably not.
Like, I don't know who saw Mean Girls and thought, who the main character should be? Regina George.
Yeah.
Like that's my big issue with this. Watching all the trailers, I'm like, I think you misunderstood this movie.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not seeing that this weekend. I'm going to see Jason Statham number 38.
No, what I've heard the
The
Beekeeper.
Beekeeper, directed by David Ayer. Because he hasn't made a movie since Suicide Squad.
Oh wow, I didn't know that was David Ayer. I thought it was just another random movie.
No, that's David Ayer. But yeah, so number 6, I've also seen this one. We're getting into a nice little stretch here where I've seen all the movies that you
Oh,
picked.
that's good.
Number 6, I picked The Iron Claw. You picked Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One.
Yes, this was another
Um,
plain movie that I saw.
yeah, I saw this one in a theater, which
I
feels
wish
like
I saw this one in theaters.
yeah, it is so good.
Yeah,
Um,
'cause usually I hate the seventh movie is also part one of two movies
yeah,
because a lot of times it ends up just being a really boring like setup movie.
I think
But
this is the
this was
best Part
great.
One.
They this one like it was exactly what you wanted. It was really good action with very good effects.
And the thing is, too, it feels like they had a mission in this movie and they
Mhm.
got to the end of that. There's
Yeah,
more to come, but they accomplished, like, this feels like cohesive Part One.
it was a whole story.
Right. Which,
It's
like,
not they didn't just make
Across
a
the
6 hour long
Spider-Verse,
movie and cut
right.
it
Across the Spider-Verse is also Part One, but
in.
it feels like it's ending at a point where it's like, why couldn't you have just made this a little shorter and then just tacked on Part Two?
Yeah.
Like, it the action is great in this one too. I like, and the thing is too, it's like Ving Rhames has to have the best job in Hollywood because when he's not talking about how fantastic Arby's is in all the commercials, he gets to be in Mission Impossible where he doesn't have to stand.
Yeah, where his job is usually sitting looking at the computers
Yeah, like,
or like
and he,
sitting in
and
a
he gets paid
van.
a lot to do that. I just talked to Ethan
And
about how
he
great he
and
is.
he's been in every single one.
Now I haven't seen the first Mission Impossible. This is actually the second Mission Impossible I've seen. All of this
So
stuff.
the first one is really good. Just the end, there's like the final line he says makes no sense. It's hilarious because in the first one there's like explosive bubble chewing gum where it's red and green, and if you smush them together, it makes a bomb. And
Uh-huh.
at the very end of the movie, he just screams red light, green light, and he smushes it together and it explodes. It makes no sense at all. But the plot is kind of convoluted, but it's entertaining.
But like my thing with it is all the backstory that they kind of laid out here in this one, was that ever established before this, or was that all new for this
I think most of it's
movie?
new. Almost every one they give him different levels of backstory that
Okay.
just because in like the third one he just has a wife, but that's
Huh.
never seen in the other ones. And I think she's his wife for the remaining ones. Um, yeah, it's the but like one of the head guys that runs the IMF was the guy that runs it from the first one. Like
Oh,
they
okay.
maintain a lot of that like internal structure. But it is kind of funny because almost every single movie, it's like he gets betrayed and then the organization thinks he's the evil guy and then they go after him. And it's like, why doesn't he just leave this organization if they keep betraying him over and over
And he
again?
keeps being right.
Like it's clear that they're like he should join like another spy like
Yeah,
organization.
there's no shortage of spy agencies in the world that'll take his work. I also did appreciate getting to see a little bit, even though it was delayed this year, we did get to see a little bit of Rebecca Ferguson running around the desert. That was nice. Um, and yeah, I did see the reason why I was so pumped for this is I saw Fallout, and that movie was great. And this one was one that I was like, you know what? It's good. Like, I don't understand why people hate these Mission Impossible movies. It's like like that and Fast and Furious, I think, are the two that I'm like, I don't understand why people hate these. They do what they set out to do.
Yeah, I don't think
Like,
they're trying to like, and these are compared to other. There's not a lot of other action movies that come out like this anymore that are this good.
oh, I have one up on my list a little bit higher than this that begs to differ, but you know, we'll see when we get to that. My number 6 was the Iron Claw, which I'm not going to spoil for you because this is a movie that if you don't know the story of the Von Erich brothers, do not read it before seeing this movie because the way this movie is framed is just fantastic.
This is a wrestling one, right?
This is a wrestling movie.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna want to wait for streaming to watch it. I think
Yeah,
I
I
do
saw
want to
this
watch.
one right before Christmas. Don't read about the family. Don't read what
Yeah, I know
happened.
nothing about it, so
Yeah,
I'm good at that. I just go in
yes,
and
just get ready. This is a movie that you are going to want to watch Manchester by the Sea to be taken up a notch, and like it's
It's
just
a happy movie.
yeah, a nice happy movie after. It's this movie is just an emotional gut punch. Like it is so well done, and I think it's a crime if Zac Efron doesn't get nominated for Best Actor, which is
Mhm.
a sentence that if you told me I was going to say a year ago today, I'd punch you in the face. Like, because I was talking to someone at work about it, and it's like he's got like a younger sister like I do, and it's like the two of us, our only touchstone for Zac Efron besides Bad Grandpa is High School Musical,
Yeah,
and it's like and he's seriously in contention for this, and I think Jeremy Allen White could make a strong case too for Best Supporting Actor.
yeah.
But he's the like that's the thing too is that it's like the kind of giveaway that the movie's gonna be sad is if he shows up because it's like that's not a face of a person you're gonna see in a comedy.
That's very true. Yeah,
Like
that guy probably it could go either way.
yeah, but yeah, it see the Iron Claw. I'm not gonna spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, but that's definitely a must see. Number five, John Wick Chapter 4 was my pick, and Avatar: The Way of Water was your pick.
Mhm.
Do you want to do Avatar first?
Yes.
Was this
So
another plane movie?
no, I saw this one. I purposely saw this one in
I was
theaters.
gonna say, like,
I
you wait
wanted
to
to.
watch that on a plane,
No,
but
I because this for me this is like when we were talking about Mission Impossible and like the Fast and Furious movies. This I put this in that like category
yeah,
where it's just a big just movie and it did exactly what I wanted it to. My biggest complaint is that it when we were to, when it was what I was afraid Mission Impossible would be, where a lot of it is just setting up the next movie, which I think is boring a lot of the time.
yes, because this is
Um,
very much part one of two. Because the next one, where they go to the Fire Nation, is gonna be,
yeah,
more of
but
this.
I thought the water effects looked like the effects looked really good. Like some of like the action was good and the water avatars were fun to be with, but some of like the whaling ship stuff was dumb. Like
See, that's my thing. Is that if you have these whales that have the secret to immortality in their brainstem, why are we fucking around with unobtainium at all?
I know,
Like,
and I think they took too long to get to that because they just made it seem like when you're trying to colonize a planet, the first thing you do is like land your spaceships, and then the second thing you do is start whaling. It was just it was like nothing, like they didn't explain why they were whaling until much further into the
yeah,
movie.
it's just like,
I was
well,
just
there are
distracted.
whales
And I was
here.
like,
Let's just kill them.
why are they prioritizing whaling so much?
Like, and the thing is too, were you prepared for the kid to talk to the whale and for the whale to respond and there to be subtitles? Because I was not.
I like that. I was fine with that.
I was not mentally prepared for
And
that to
I
happen. And
like that
people
the
burst
whales
out
have
in
their
my
own
theater
society.
laughing.
There's like whale culture and stuff, and they're like there's two like stubborn as well. The whale battle was cool at the end. Well, then there's one other.
How
Oh,
do you
this
feel about Cameron being like, okay, I heard your criticisms of this being a white savior story. I heard you. I'm gonna triple down on it and make it a white super savior story
I
where it's
do
like,
I appreciate that where he's just like I don't care.
yeah,
These are my movies,
like, all right, whatever,
and
fuck you. I'm gonna
especially
do it
with
anyway.
because it did end up making a shit ton of money too. So he was
Yeah,
just like
exactly.
I don't care anything like anyone says. Like I'm just
Yeah,
gonna keep these movies,
like,
and they
oh,
did
okay,
make
so
one of the
we're gonna
worst video games.
reincarnate the last girl, like,
The
and
thing is
then
also the thing I didn't get is all of his Avatar children all
uh
grew up together, but they all have different accents, and I don't understand how
yeah,
that.
I don't understand that either. Also, like, why like Spider was my least favorite part of the movie.
He
The,
was
the
the worst
one
part of the
the
movie.
one human kid. How do
He
you feel about
sucked.
the impending Quaritch redemption arc?
I think that at the end, I like that he saved the dad,
Hmm.
and that yeah, the evil general guy. That was kind of fun.
Like my only thing with that is
I like
I'm
Edie
not a
Falco.
huge
He was
fan
fun.
that they kind of set it up this early. Like it just kind of tells us exactly where they're going now with this character. It's like, all right, you're setting it up where he's going to be redeemed. I get what you're doing. It's
Hmm.
kind of transparent. I'm also not particularly happy about the fact that Cameron made me watch the third act of Titanic for a second time, this time with aliens, complete with the exact same line of dialogue as they're on the ship going under.
Ah, I didn't even. I haven't seen Titanic in a long time.
Yeah, as the ship is going under, I forgot what the line of dialogue is. Oh, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. As it's going, they're hanging on to the back as it's going into the
Mhm.
water. I literally was like, oh fuck you.
It's an
Like
homage.
I get it that like if the script worked in 1997, it'll work again here. I get it, but arguably Titanic does not have a great script.
It's an Easter egg.
Um, yeah. I don't think it's an Easter egg when it's self-referential.
Self-plagiarism. Self-plagiarism.
My number five was John Wick Chapter 4, which I don't think you've seen yet.
No, I've seen the three of them. I just kind of forgot this one came out.
Yeah, this movie is 3 hours long. It does not feel 3 hours long. There are multiple 40-minute long set pieces of just continuous action. And it's just phenomenal. Like there's a fight through the streets of Paris as he's getting thrown off of cars. He has to climb the staircase. He gets to the top. He gets kicked. He rolls all the way down in a continuous 30-second thing of him just rolling down the staircase. There's a casino fight where he fights this giant guy, and I'm like, this is what I want to see when we get another fight between Daredevil and Kingpin. There's a huge fight in another one of the Continentals that is hilarious because it starts out with them walking through the hotel and they go through this room of glass cases and you're like, oh, I know what's happening in here in like 10 minutes. Like it's like Chekhov's glass case room. He's gonna be throwing through everything in there at some point in the next half hour. The Donnie Yen is great. But all of that is not the best part of the movie. The best two parts of the movie are there's a sequence where they're getting ready to kill John Wick, and everyone's getting these shotguns with dragon breath bullets. And what they are is they added a shotgun, it shoots out like a blast of fire. And you're like, that seems excessive. Why are they doing that? The reason why is because as he's going through this building, it goes to like a top-down isometric view where you're watching from above, and as he's going through, it's one continuous thing of him walking around this thing, and it's like you're tracking him through. And the reason why they did that was so you can see where he's shooting.
Okay, that's
so you can see this giant blast out from the gun to see where he's shooting and who's shooting at him. And that is such a technical feat that it's there. And the other thing is, this movie has my favorite line read of the year, where Donnie Yen is being talked to by whichever Skarsgård's the bad guy in this movie. I don't remember which one because there's like 7 of them and they all look kind of the same. Whichever one it is says to him like, "Don't forget, I have your daughter," and he just yells at him, but like because he's blind, he's looking in the wrong direction. It's like "fuck off" like that. Like it is the best line read of the year. But that's why that movie's so high for me.
I had to give the second one, like each one I liked less and less. So I had to give this one a chance then.
Yeah, this one I think is better than. I think 2 is the weakest. 2 is definitely the weakest. I think this is the best out of all of them.
Okay, I'll have to give it a chance then.
And we'll have one more John Wick discussion later on in this because there's one more John Wick thing to talk about. Not on this list, but in the draft. Because if you don't take it, I am. Number 4. This is our first one where we both picked something. What?
Really, we both picked the same movie?
We both picked the same movie. Number 4, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, and Killers of the Flower Moon Tide. Because we both picked Killers of the Flower Moon. You picked it way down at number 10. I picked it at what's the score here? 8. So I picked it at number 3 or number 2. Let's do Dungeons and Dragons. I've seen that too. Let's do that one first before we get into Killers of the Flower Moon. There's no good order of operations here, so let's just plow on through it.
I put Dungeons and Dragons much higher up. Killers of the Flower Moon for me.
Yeah. I didn't put Dungeons and Dragons at all.
I didn't think this movie was going to be good until you said it was really good, and then I loved it.
Yeah, it's a solid comedy. Like, and also it has the best example of like a 4-on-1 fight scene in the third act. Like we see a lot of these movies like this where it's like she could have just summoned an army of the undead and that's what they're fighting. No, it's just the 4 of them all fighting this one person.
Yeah.
It's funny as fuck. Like,
yeah, it's so like when they go to what's her name? But they go to her like ex-husband's house and
oh yeah.
That part is so funny.
It's Bradley Cooper, and like when I first saw it, I'm like, is that Bradley Cooper?
Yeah. He's just like 3 feet tall.
Yeah. And then at the end, the payoff to that joke too, at the end where there's the other guy who's like really tiny like that, and she looks at him and bites her lip.
Yeah.
Like even her, like she's not a strong actress, but she's really good in this movie.
Michelle Rodriguez, that's it.
Yeah.
That's yeah,
Um,
she's really good in this.
and it seemed like Justice Smith, I don't think is that good of an actor either. He was in Detective Pikachu, but he was really funny here too.
He was in Jurassic, one of the Jurassic Worlds.
He was in 2 and briefly in 3.
He was well, not his fault, but his character was awful in that one.
Yeah, he was in 2 and then briefly in 3. Because he's the one who gives them the information in 3. That's like, all right, cool, bye.
He just shows it. He's like, okay, bye. Remember me?
Yeah, you were there. You know what they're doing. But yeah, the whole thing with the sequence where they're waking the dead to ask them the questions, and then they have to finish
That
asking
part's
the
so
questions. Like they're just asking, and like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite book? Like, okay, bye. Like,
and then they forget one of them. He's like still alive at the end.
yeah. Then you wait through the credits, and he's just still there. Like, I'm still not dead. Like, and I think it's too. It's like this is the world is so well made, and it's like there's a lot of CG, and it looks great. Like,
or even the beginning when he's giving the backstory at the trial and is waiting for the guy.
yeah, they're waiting for the guy to show up. And Hugh Grant's really good in this movie too. And Hugh Grant, I think he's really good in a comedic role. Because he had this and he had Wonka too. He's the Oompa Loompa in Wonka.
Oh yeah, I forget he's Oompa Loompa.
Yeah. He's really funny in that too. But he's for a movie that hasn't made the list, we talked about a lot about Wonka. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I hope they make more of them. Because it's like it doesn't have to be $200 million. And I think the big mistake that we have with Paramount this year is they had the weakest box office, but arguably the strongest release slate.
Oh yeah. Do you think they just released in the wrong time?
Oh, they gave terrible dates for their stuff.
Yeah.
They released Mission Impossible right after Oppenheimer and Barbie.
Perfect.
like you have a 3-week exclusivity window for IMAX for Nolan. You're gonna put out Oppenheimer. You're gonna put out Mission Impossible in the middle of that. Why would you do that?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Like they put out Dungeons and Dragons at the end of March, which March opened with John Wick, had Creed 3, and had Shazam. It was 4 consecutive weeks of movies.
Before it looked awful too.
Yeah,
that's why I didn't see it, because I was like, this looks terrible.
But also, they had one other big.
I thought it was like not another teen movie. That's what I thought it was going to be.
It was just, yeah, that my only thing about it that had me optimistic was Chris Pine, and he's great, but he's great in everything.
Yeah, he's the best. Yeah.
But like the other big miss that Paramount had was they had a Transformers movie come out in June.
Another
and that was sandwiched between the week before was Across the Spider-Verse, the week after was The Flash.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
People are definitely going to see Spider-Man over Transformers.
Exactly. And The Flash, at the time, we didn't know how bad The Flash was yet.
Mm-hmm.
And The Flash showed abilities. This is and The Flash was opening against Elemental.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
So you like, what was the plan here with that release? Why would you give it that date? They made a bunch of really bad decisions this year that led to their box office being so low when it could have been a lot higher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just were more strategic about releasing.
Yeah, and Killers of the Flower Moon was probably their best release date out of all of them because they also produced Killers of the Flower Moon. That was and that was only because Taylor Swift forced them to move.
Yeah.
And if Taylor Swift didn't release her concert movie, Killers of the Flower Moon wouldn't have had as good a date.
Mm-hmm.
But that movie was just phenomenal. I went into that with very high expectations, and it met all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed, like, that was another one that had a line in the theater that had probably the best uneasy laugh I've ever heard in like that scene toward the end where the guy's talking to the lawyer and he goes like, so if I were to adopt these kids and then they all died, would I inherit their land rights?
Yeah.
And the lawyer's like, are you telling me you're going to kill these kids? And he's like, no. Like that movie is just from beginning to end a series of horrors. and it's just
Yeah.
again, I don't understand how people can watch a Scorsese movie and always think the protagonist is the good guy.
Oh yeah,
Like it
so
happens every time.
for me, so I read the book beforehand.
Mhm.
So I think it's just the way for me, I just rather for movies based off of true stories, I'd rather just watch for the most part a documentary about what happened instead of
That's
like
fair.
fictionalization. So for me, this one because a lot of his other movies are based like Goodfellas is based off a book. I think is based off a real
Yes.
guy. And then so I guess for me because I don't know the story as well, I just couldn't keep watching Goodfellas over and over and like just accept it for what it is.
Right.
This one maybe because I just knew too much of the source material. Like in the back of my mind, I'm just like, well, it didn't happen like that. This is how that happened.
See
And
that I think is probably
for
that
me,
didn't impact me in that way. But
so
like it
I wish because the book's not that good. I actually don't think you should read the book.
I don't read
Because
true crime really.
the book is much more just about FBI and how amazing the FBI is, and it's kind of annoying.
Mhm.
Um, the because they actually didn't really do that much. Like the FBI agent shows up, he's like, "Oh, this is pretty obvious what's going on," and then it ends. And
Right.
you don't the books doesn't really focus at all on the husband and wife. So I really like that part of it, and that's why I was like, "Oh, okay, this is gonna be good," and it is a really good movie. It's just me personally, I just like think about those little things.
Yeah. Well, I think Lily Gladstone's gonna win Best Actress this year. I think that's
Oh yeah,
a
I think she should.
guarantee. And she's fantastic in this movie. And I saw her in I had a movie on my list that I bumped out because I didn't similar to Sometimes I Think About Dying, where it hasn't had a
Mm,
wide release yet. I had Fancy Dance on my list that I
mm,
saw at Hamptons Film Festival that she was in, where she plays a. I saw this right before I saw Colors on Flower Moon too. She plays like this woman who's taking care of her niece after her sister goes missing,
mm.
and she's kind of like a con man kind of thing. And she's really good in that too. And she's probably a like the one of the bigger unsung talents today. Um,
Yeah.
and that ending too is just so perfect with when they go and it cuts to the Lucky Strike true crime radio show and
Mm,
Scorsese coming up and doing that, where it's like, yes, we're taking these people's suffering and and packaging it as entertainment, and I'm acknowledging that I'm doing that, and I'm making you complicit in that now too.
yeah.
Like that,
Yeah,
it's such a
it was
genius
better,
ending.
and it was better than just having text on the screen, just
Exactly.
explaining everything.
It's such a great ending to that movie because it's like it doesn't excuse what it is because that's a common criticism of true crime and things like this in general, but it
Mm,
at least acknowledges it in a meaningful way that a lot of other things don't.
yeah.
So
And
that
I
one,
mean, I didn't read that book just for out of curiosity. I only read the book because the movie was coming out too.
right? Um, and Jesse Plemons just shows up in movies, and it's just like I've never seen him in anything bad.
Hmm.
Like he always shows up for like one or two scenes, and he's always great.
And he was really good in Breaking Bad too,
Yes, he was.
where he got to start, I think.
I think he was in something before that. Breaking Bad is probably his first big role, but
Yeah.
now we're back to for the next for number three and number two. We have two each that I have not seen. I would assume you haven't seen.
Mm.
So number three, we have a tie between Nimona and Evil Dead Rise, which was another one that I'm not surprised is this high up in your list.
Yeah.
Um, so Evil Dead Rise, do you want to go first with that?
Yeah. So this was a COVID movie? Like they
I don't
made
know
a
if it was a COVID movie. I know it was. No, you know what it was? It was a Max movie. It was one of the
that was it. It
movies.
was going to go straight to Max.
Right. There was Warner Bros. Released three movies this year that were supposed to go to Max. It was that Magic Mike and Blue Beetle.
Yeah. So I went in with low expectations for this because the last Evil Dead remake was really good, but they had all these problems with the licensing and
Mhm.
like who actually owns the titles and stuff. So by the time they made this one, and I was like, oh, they're gonna do it in an apartment building, and they like, kept changing all the rules of what Evil Dead is. So I was like, this is gonna
Mhm.
suck. Like I can't. This is gonna and like little kids are the main characters, and I was like, they're not gonna do anything. They're little kids, and then I was completely wrong. It was the gore is insane and like they literally like the children are involved. They kill children in the movie.
Yeah, I was gonna watch the movie and they need something about a cheese grater on someone's skin, and I'm like, you know what? I don't need to see
Yeah,
this
there's
movie then.
very few. very few movies at this point can make me cringe from the gore, and this one did multiple times. Yeah, there's cheese graters, tattoo guns being driven into people,
Yeah,
and it.
I was very when you said that at the mid-year top five, I was like, yeah, I don't think I need to see this.
Yeah, and there's like a couple fun there, and it like when you're talking about the glass cases thing in John Wick.
Mhm.
There's a scene where they go down to the parking garage and there's just a giant wood chipper, and it's like, okay, this obviously something's gonna happen with this.
Yeah. Yeah, I did not see Evil. I haven't seen any of the Evil Dead movies actually. Because again, not a big horror person.
Mhm.
I do own Evil Dead to eventually watch. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Yeah,
Um,
they're all good because
yeah,
they're all so different from each other. So that's why I think they're good. Because if you watch all the Friday the 13th or all the Halloweens, they just start melting into each other because they
yeah.
all are similar.
The only franchise that I've seen everything in is I've seen all the Halloweens except for Halloween 3. I've seen all the Michael Myers Halloweens, and if you
Yeah.
ask me which one any significant happened in, unless it's which one was Paul Rudd in, I can't tell you
Yeah.
which one was which. Because Paul
Mhm.
Rudd was in 6. Because it's a little trivia fact that he shot that before Clueless.
Oh yeah.
The first movie he
But it came
shot, but
out
not the
after,
first
right?
he appeared. Yep, it came out after Clueless, but
Yeah.
he shot it before Clueless. Um, but yeah, I've only heard good things about this movie.
Yeah, it's
Um,
very good.
like and again, I think I texted you about this when the Marvels bombed, where it's like we talk about superhero fatigue. We don't talk about horror fatigue
Mhm.
because there are tons of horror movies that come out every year. Like Evil Dead Rise is a massive success for Warner Brothers. It's their most profitable movie of the year.
Mhm.
It made $150 million because the budget was 10 million
Yeah,
or 20
they
million.
could make a superhero movie for $20 million and
Right. Like that was the big issue with the Batman. If your Batman
Mhm.
movie costs $200 million to make, you don't understand
Yeah.
Batman. That especially if it's going to be a straight
Especially when
noir
it was
movie.
like, yeah, why was this $200 million?
Exactly. It's like, well, the flood, but you don't need the flood. The flood wasn't necessary. You could have cut a half hour off that movie and cut the
Yeah.
budget down by a lot. Like the you the issue is not fatigue. The issue is the budgets are unsustainably big. You got to bring the
Yeah.
budgets down, which is why it's like there are tons of horror movies that come out every year that are just terrible. Like,
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely atrocious. Most of them I
because
would say are horrible.
exactly, and because and the thing is too, I don't like disparaging independent filmmakers or anything like that. I really don't like punching like I'll attack in studio movies, and that's what I'm talking about here. But you get a lot of first time filmmakers make horror because it's cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do
And
it all in one house or
exactly,
something
you can
like
do it
that.
in one setting. You can do it with minimal effects. And the effects you can get at Party City, like and
Yeah.
if you shoot it
That's like
right with the
Peter
right
Jackson's
camera, it looks
first movie.
good. Exactly. Like that's why and your other movie up higher than this is also a horror movie that presumably was also
Yep.
cheap. I didn't look at the budget for that one, but presumably it was also cheap. And that's what they need to do with these superhero movies is bring the budgets down. And part of that is stop with the secrecy. It's all going to leak
Hmm.
anyway. Don't just
Yeah.
ignore the leaks because what's bringing these budgets up is the fact that they're shooting them all on sound stages or on the volume, and that costs more money than shooting practically somewhere.
Hmm.
So what's happening is you're having these movies get inflated up to 250, $300 million budgets because you don't want anyone to know what happens. But guess what? It leaks anyway. So what was all that extra money for?
Yeah. So,
Nothing.
mhm.
But my number three was Nimona, which is an animated movie that started out at Blue Sky, which when it was owned by Fox, it ended up getting dropped when Disney bought Fox, and it ended up getting produced by Netflix. Um, it's about this girl who's an agent of chaos in every sense of the word. She's like a demon that could transform into different animals, and she's ostracized because of that. And they think she's a monster. And it's about her coming to terms with the fact that she's not a monster and learning who she is as a person. I saw this
Mhm.
movie
I
with
have it
no,
added to my Netflix. I just haven't watched it yet.
because I think this was my number one movie
Yeah.
at the mid-year point. It
Hmm.
is so good. The visual aesthetic of the world is so unique because it's this blend of high fantasy and also like modern technology. So it has
Hmm.
this really cool aesthetic to it. The art style is great. Chloe Grace Moretz, who I haven't really like. I've seen her in Kick-Ass, and she kind of brings that energy as Hit Girl to this, which is what makes it work really well. Like she's got this real like chaotic force of nature to her that's just kind of really fun to watch. And Riz Ahmed's great in it too. He's the guy in the movie, but he's good in everything, even if he is a little annoying. Um, but yeah, Nimona is definitely the strongest animated movie of the year, by a long shot. And that's the thing too. We had a lot of really good animated movies this year, because even Elemental, which didn't make my list at all, Elemental was
Mhm.
really good too. And that was another
Okay.
poorly marketed movie. Because you know what it is? It's an immigrant story. That's
Mhm.
all the story is. It's the story of these people who came to a new world for a better life, and then what happens there to go with it. It's marketed as a romance, but it's really not.
I mean, that's what it just looked like. It just looked like yeah, just very stereotypical like
No, it's
rope.
more of an immigrant story about this girl who thinks she has expectations of her family to
Uh-huh.
continue running the family store. But it's I saw it at the New York premiere. It was really good. Number two, Past Lives was my pick, which is my number one pick, and your number one pick was Infinity Pool. Now these aren't number one because our number one was picked by both of us, and I think at this point you can use process of elimination to figure out what that one is.
Yeah,
Uh,
oh, at least I know what it is.
yeah, well, I'm looking at it, so I know what it is too. But yeah, so I did not see Infinity Pool. I wanted to see it. I know it's Cronenberg's son.
Yep, yeah,
Um,
Brandon Cronenberg. All of his have been amazing. His other movie, Possessor, is also very good. This one I liked even more than Possessor.
I saw the trailers a few times. I think Mia Goth is really coming into her own as kind of a modern scream queen.
Yeah, my only critique of her, she's very good in this movie, but my
Mhm.
only critique of her is she's so weird and creepy the whole time that it's like, why would you ever trust this person with like doing anything?
Oh,
Because
okay,
that's like the main part of the movie is that she like befriends what's his Alexander Skarsgård's character.
right.
Um, and it's like if I was him, there's no way I would ever talk or hang out with
Trust
this
this woman to do
person.
anything.
Yeah, but it's really good. This doesn't give away too much. It's just the basis of it, where it's this country that's kind of just made up.
Mhm.
Um, that it's kind of like this older, maybe like Soviet bloc country that's
Right.
now where rich people go, but it's still very poor outside of the resort. So you have to stay inside the resort.
Or we call
But
that
then
in
if you
America
do something,
Jamaica.
yeah, basically. But if you do something outside and break the law, they basically have this rule where you can pay enough money where they'll make a clone of you, and then whoever you wronged will get to kill your clone,
Hmm.
as like to get punishment out of it. And
Now,
then
do
so
the
then it
inhabitants
becomes
know it's
that
a
these
clone?
this is the part where the movie's very ambiguous and where you can there's like different ways to view what's going on in the film too, and it's
Okay.
very good. So that's
Does,
why I like it, where it's not very. There's no clear. You could. There's a few different things you can argue about what's going on and who is who, as
mhm.
the film just keeps going.
Oh,
And
so they don't tell you
it's
who's
not
the
really
clone and who is
scary.
real.
That's how I interpreted it. Where you when they're getting killed, you don't know if the original people are getting killed, and then the rest of the movie you're seeing clones, or are they actually killing the clones?
Huh.
And it's more disturbing than scary too.
Now, does this have any gore
There's
that's gonna make me want to turn off the movie, or can I watch it on Max and not,
No, you can watch it, dude. It's more. It's there's not like they're pulling out people's intestines or
Oh,
anything
okay.
like
So it's
that.
not
It's
like Saw or
just the
or Evil Dead
yeah.
Rise.
It's not really. Is a little bit of gore, but it's not that bad. There's like a lot of weird drug stuff too, and there's like hallucinations, and it's just really good. It's like kind of that critique. I don't know, it is definitely like a critique of rich people, but it doesn't feel as like in your face about it.
Oh, okay. So
And
it's not
Alex
like Triangle of
Skarsgård,
Sadness, where it's like it's not subtle in the
yeah,
slightest.
it's not as that or the menu where it's just like so in your face about it. I
Right.
think it's much better than both of these.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to watch it. I don't remember why I didn't see it last. It came out in January. I forgot why I didn't see it, but I was going to, and then I ended up not. And then I just still haven't a year later. Um,
Mhm.
I do see a lot of movies. Um, but yeah, so I will eventually check that one out though. My number
Yeah,
two
it's really good.
was, or my number one was a Sundance Select movie from last year that ended up getting a wider release. I think it was A24 who released it. Past Lives, starring Greta Lee, who's getting a lot of accolades for her performance. It is a platonic romance movie. Is the best way to
Oh yeah,
define what this is. It's
I
about
remember seeing this.
the childhood friends who like were very close as kids, and then it's about them throughout their lives continually reconnecting and coming back together and then separating again. It is beautifully heartbreaking, this movie. And as I'm making
Mhm.
this list, I said to my brother when we look over my shoulder, and I'm like, "This is definitely the list of someone who has clinical depression." Um, like, but yeah, it is so beautifully done. Like they don't make the husband the bad guy, the husband that she's married to. When he
Yeah.
does come back the last time, like them breaking off that last time is so well shot.
Mhm.
Like with the two of them waiting for the cab and then her leaving him and then walking away and just breaking down when she gets back to the hut. This movie was hands down my favorite movie of the year.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, and it's a second straight year that we have a Asian film or a film to come out of no Everything Everywhere All at Once didn't come out of Asia.
Mhm.
Asian led movie for
Yeah.
a second straight year for me because last year was Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I think 2 years ago it was 2 years before that it was Parasite.
Yeah, Parasite
So
is really good. And that was also Korean.
yeah, so this one was really good. I think there's a chance Greta Lee gets nominated, and I think this is going to win Best Original Screenplay.
Mhm.
Um, because it takes the story over the course of decades and it distills it down so perfectly, and it works so well. Which brings us to our number one, which is Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Which I think everyone kind of figured out as we went through the list, and Oppenheimer wasn't mentioned yet. Um, yeah, this was my number like three. This was your number. I don't have the
My number
paper in front of
four.
me. Yeah, but yeah, it is a lot of movies on this list were over 3 hours long. Um, and they were getting good at the art of making a 3 hour long movie that doesn't feel it. Um,
Mhm.
I loved Oppenheimer when I saw it.
Yeah, this is
Um,
my song in theaters. And I think I saw it in IMAX too, and I was very happy with it.
I don't remember if I saw it in IMAX or not. I may have seen. Oh no, I definitely did because I saw it the same weekend I saw Barbie, so I had to have seen
Yeah,
it
I like
originally.
IMAX, or at least where I am, because it's a way louder theater too. Like the sound is not so much better.
So we have Dolby or IMAX, and Dolby.
Mhm.
I don't see movies in Dolby because the guy who runs it fucks up the intro part every time. So we end up watching twice as many intro clips because he keeps messing. Every time he messes it up. Where it's like the
That's very
AMC
annoying.
intros, and then there's like the Dolby specific ones that you're supposed to do instead. But he does
Yeah.
both, and then it's like they'll do the intro ones, then they'll show all the trailers, then they'll do the regular AMC, then they'll do all the Dolby ones, and then it ends with one that's supposed to lead into the trailers. And invariably, every time someone in the theater goes, "What the fuck, more trailers?"
Yeah, just keep it going.
Like,
You should complain and see if you can get free movies every
oh,
time you go.
I have because the thing with AMC is they don't let you do the survey every time they email you if they want you to do the survey. And
Yeah.
anytime I do, I complain. I'm like, "What is going on?" And then it'll be
Yeah.
fixed for like 3 weeks, and then it'll go back to the old way. So I'm like, I know you're reading it, but yeah, I think
Mhm.
that Oppenheimer is so well done. Killian Murphy is fantastic in this movie. Um, so Emily Blunt's really good too. Um,
Yeah.
I think she's going to get Best Supporting Actress. I think Robert Downey Jr. wins Best Supporting Actor this year.
Yeah, the reveal at the end of like the lake conversation
Oh yeah,
was amazing. That was
the
like
whole third
because
act that like
it's so small and simple, but that part for me was much better than the bomb going off.
yeah, like the whole thing with the once you get to that third act where everything's being revealed, um,
Hmm.
and everything's kind of being explained. It is in the beginning, I'm like, I don't think we really need to see this. And then by the end, you're like, oh, this is incredible.
Yeah,
The way
and
this is
I
laid
love
out.
when it's like they like bring you in and they'll give you a reward, but it's for them, it's not for you. And then
Yeah,
they show him like future going to the White House and getting the award and stuff.
yeah. And then it's
It's
like
so
the name drop of Kennedy. like it's the Robin reveal at the end of The Dark Knight Rises. Like the at the very end when Taron Egerton's like, "Oh yeah, it was some upstart Canada, some upstart senator from Massachusetts. I think his name's Kennedy or something." Like
Yeah.
it just felt like that thing from the end of The Dark Knight Rises. Like, why don't you go by your first name, Robin? Like,
That part I actually did. I don't think I like that much.
like
It was
it
too a little bit. My
a little
biggest
too on
critique
the
of the
nose.
movie is there was way too much stunt casting.
Yes, I
Where
will agree with that. Where it's like you
there was
like,
way too many just
oh, that
inconsequential
guy.
characters that were famous people. Just and every single time they were turned away from the camera, and then they turned towards the camera. It's like, look, it's Josh Peck. He does not say
and
a
he
word, but
and he makes that face he did in Drake and Josh, like that squinty eye
Yeah.
look, like him David Barinholtz from the Santa Claus, like in that one scene, Casey Affleck, Rami Malek,
Yeah.
like it's it was that's the only issue. If that's the only issue with the movie, then that's not an issue at all. Like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because
and,
like everything else was great.
and I think that they learned that they shouldn't have said as much as they did about not doing CGI.
That was so dumb because it was CGI. Like they lied basically.
Well, not only that, but when you say that much about that, you end up talking your way out of a Best Visual Effects Oscar nomination because they're not on the shortlist for Best Visual Effects. That the shortlist came out, and they did not make the list. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, because you talked about how you used practical effects. The visual effects Oscar people only consider CGI. Like you talked your way out of that. But yeah, Robert Downey Jr. is gonna win.
They like purposely left out like the visual effects people from the credits to try to like put to make people think it was all 100% practical. Even though there's like a scene in the beginning where he's like looking at objects like flying around the room, and it's like that's clearly CGI.
Like, I have two questions for you about this movie. Well, kind of about this movie. Do you the Oscar race for Best Director is going to come down to Nolan versus Scorsese. Nolan for his first, Scorsese for his second. Who do you think wins between the two of them?
Because it's for these two movies, I think Nolan should win.
I agree. I
feel
think
like
this is a better.
it was
movie.
an interesting way to tell like biographical story, like the way it was revealed.
Yeah, the non-sequential nature and all of that.
Yeah, and that's the way he chose to direct it, and that's what the award is for. And so I think that's why Oppenheimer, he should get that for Oppenheimer.
Yeah, that's gonna be I think that's it. I think ultimately it's gonna come down to that. I think Greta Gerwig's gonna get nominated for Barbie. And the other two are kind of a toss up. I can see Alexander Payne getting nominated for the Holdovers.
Oh, yeah.
But the other two are a toss up. I think it's gonna come down to them though. And the other question is, Nolan has said he wants to do a Star Wars or a James Bond.
I think he would do better at James Bond.
I agree. I think that Lucasfilm would eat him alive, which is ridiculous. But I think Lucasfilm.
Yeah, do you think they would get involved in like?
Oh, 100%. There's no way that they'd let him have the free reign he would demand to do that.
But with James Bond, I think they'd be happy. They'd just be like, yeah, make a James Bond movie.
Oh yeah, like if I'm them, I'm like, do whatever you want. I could see him doing like James Bond as a '60s period piece. In which case, it's like cool. Just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like just have fun. Like and that'd be great. If he like, I could see Lucasfilm just getting too into it and too into the nitty gritty of like, you hire Nolan, Nolan do Nolan. Like. But yeah, Oppenheimer is definitely film of the year. Which brings us to looking at next year. So I have our movie draft scorecard up. It is now blank. Let me see if I can share the screen so that way, for real this time, I will share the screen if I can do that. Not the share screen button. There we go. That is the share screen button. Okay, so I'm now sharing my screen. You can see how I have it set up. So we will each be picking 5 movies with one alternate in the event that a movie gets delayed out of 2024. On top of that, we're going to be doing a new thing this year. The scoring is the same. Each category has a maximum of 100 points. The Metacritic score is whatever the Metacritic score is at the end of the year. I say 1 week after release, but I check it all through the year and then update it as needed. Usually after about a week, it evens out, and that's why I said a week. But after that, it'll be whatever. And that's whatever that score is. The box office point is for every $10 million earned in the theatrical run, it earns 1 point. So at $1 billion, it'll cap out at 100 points. Now, this year we're changing it. You can earn over 100 points for the Metacritic score. And with that, we have a new rule to kind of offset what happened last year, where it kind of ran away at one point. So the new Metacritic scoring bonus. When we pick our movie, we will also be predicting what the Metacritic score will be. And the closer we are, the more points we get as a bonus. So we'll use last year's Super Mario, which is a 46. Say I pick Super Mario, I think it's going to be 56 in the Metacritic. That is within 10. So the score would be 1.25 times the score. Say I predicted it would be 51. Then we're within 5. It'd be 1.5 times. So 1.5 times. If I guess it exactly and I guess 46 and it's exactly 46, then I get 2 times the score. So I will note in here whatever we think the Metacritic score will be. Do you want me to get right into Dune Part 2 right now and move on from there?
Yeah, I was going to be strategic and then wait till like my last round to do Dune Part 2. But you can put that one in.
Well, either way, you're going to have Dune Part 2 in there somewhere. I didn't even put it on my list.
I'll say, should I give my Metacritic guess then?
Yes, what's your Metacritic guess for that?
I do 88.
88. I'm gonna put.
I'm assuming for me it'll probably be 100.
I think 88 is a good guess because I could see that going in that range. From everything I've heard about it so far, I think it could go higher. I have only heard positive things. I'm going to unshare my screen so that way I can have my list up without it being visible.
Yeah.
Because I have a list. I have a list of words.
All right, I just pick whatever ones you want.
Whatever your next one is, I want that. So my first pick is going to be Deadpool 3.
I was going to try to be strategic this time, and that was my next one was Deadpool 3.
Yeah, because Deadpool 3 is what's it called? Allegedly this is going to be the No Way Home for the Fox universe, where it's going to be saying goodbye to all of the Fox X-Men characters. I'm gonna guess 80 as the 82 as the Metacritic. I'm gonna guess. So that way, because I think that it could be good, but I don't think it's gonna do as well. What is your second pick?
If the Ryan Reynolds children movie, the Imaginary Friend ones.
That is a smart choice.
That was coming off of Deadpool 3. That's what made me think of it too. I'll do 70 for that Metacritic.
I think what you're doing here is you're doing my pick for Mario last year.
Yeah, that's what this one looks. I don't even know if I'll see it, but I think it's gonna do well.
Yeah, I think it's gonna make a lot of money. I think Ryan Reynolds will pull. I think John Krasinski writing and directing is gonna be a good pull too.
I forgot that too.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I think. I don't even have it on my list though. My number 2, and this is another one that you probably are gonna regret. Furiosa.
Yep, that was one of my other ones I was gonna
pick. Furiosa. It looks phenomenal. The best part of seeing any Warner Brothers movie in a theater recently has been the 1-2 punch of the Dune trailer and the Furiosa trailer. And I'm so confident in that movie. I'm going to say 91 is my Metacritic guess.
Yeah, that one I'm definitely going to see, but I'm avoiding the trailer for now.
Yeah, if you see any Warner Brothers movie, you're gonna see the Furiosa trailer. Chris Hemsworth looks just absolutely unhinged in that. It's gonna be fantastic. So your third pick.
All right, Despicable Me 4.
I don't have that on my list either.
These are very popular movies.
I understand. But I understand the thought process.
But the Metacritic, I'm going to put it like 52.
That's a smart play. Because those movies are not usually well received by critics, but they make a lot of money. Yeah. Because even Despicable Me 3 came out, or Minions 3 came out during the pandemic, or toward the tail end of the pandemic when the theater hadn't quite recovered yet, and it still made close to $1 billion.
Yeah.
Illumination, if they have one of their big franchises, that's a solid box office pull. My number 3, Wicked Part 1.
So like the musical, they're making. I didn't even know they're making that into a movie.
And you know what? I put it on the list too because I was like, he's gonna take that because if there's one thing we've seen at the box office, it's movies that are designed for women to see pull a lot of money.
And especially that legacy musical
exactly.
too.
Like Crazy Rich Asians made a ton of money. What was the other big one? Barbie made a ton of money. And I'm not making that mistake again. But I'm gonna say this is gonna be a 78 Metacritic. I think the part 1 of 2 is gonna hurt it.
Yeah. Then I read the book. It does not need to be 2 movies. It's a very straightforward story.
Yeah. So your 4th pick.
Mean Girls, the new one coming out.
That's a bad pick.
We'll see. I think it, and I'm gonna give it a 68 for Metacritic.
Okay, let me ask a question real quick, and consult Metacritic. If that movie is already on Metacritic, then I'm gonna have to.
Oh yeah, wait.
Yeah, let me.
If it is, I'll change. Should I change my answer then?
Yeah, we could change it. I usually we don't have movies that come out in January when we do this because usually movies that come out in January are not very good, as like a rule. So Mean Girls. Okay, I don't know why Mean Girls Metacritic. It does have a Metacritic score already. Oh wait, no, hang on.
Okay.
That was the original. No, there is no Metacritic score, so I will let that stand.
All right, I'm gonna take it then. I think it's gonna do very well.
You think it's gonna make a lot of money?
I do. I think a lot of people around our age are gonna go see it.
My prediction for opening weekend box office would be 40 to 50 million. We'll see though. My issue with Mean Girls is when we do box office, it's international box office too. I don't know if Mean Girls has the international box office pull.
That's true. Oh, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's a very popular musical. It was the musical beforehand.
That's true. My 4th pick is doing a little bit of what you did with the 2 kids movies, Kung Fu Panda 4.
I almost picked that one, but I already did Despicable Me 4. I was like, I can't do 2 4s. Yeah,
2 animated 4s. Again, I think this is gonna be not great. I think we're looking at a 65 Metacritic. I don't think it's gonna be fantastic. I think it's gonna pull a lot of money because I know there are a few guys at work who are like in their early 20s. They are really into Kung Fu Panda and they're really excited for this movie.
Wow. I guess that just passed me by.
Yeah, because we're just a little too old for that. But people who are younger than us, it was a big deal for them. So the trailer doesn't look bad. What is your final main pick?
Okay. This is gonna be my risky one, I think. I'm going Nosferatu. The guy that made The Witch is releasing a Nosferatu movie, I think in December of the upcoming year.
I would assume you think it's going to be like a mid-80s Metacritic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I'm going to do. Oh, yeah. Do 85 for that one. 85. I think that's right around probably.
That movie, I think, could be. See, I think there's definitely a theory behind picking movies that are going to be well received because that's an easy Metacritic, and then it's just all bonus points after that. Because if you get let's say I'm right about Kung Fu Panda and it only does 50 at the box or 500 million at the box office, then it kind of offsets a really high scoring Metacritic. But I think that that one I don't see doing a ton of business. And also I don't know how strong of an actress Lily Rose Depp is.
That is true. Well, I guess we'll have to.
That's the thing that holds me back on that one. And I do think Robert Eggers has Oh no, I've seen Yoga Hoses. Don't worry. I've seen that. I've also seen bits and pieces of that other show she did on HBO last year with The Weeknd. That was not very good. So I don't think I've seen,
Oh,
and she was also in that weird movie where she was like a furry or like
I've
an,
I don't know about that one, luckily.
yeah, it was in theaters a few years ago. Uh, Also, see, and that's kind of where it is. I do trust Robert Eggers. Maybe he can bring something out of her that you know Kevin Smith couldn't, and maybe The
Mhm.
Weeknd couldn't. But we'll see
He
about
did
that.
discover who's playing Furiosa. I forget what her name is.
Anya Taylor Joy.
Yeah, he because she one of her first big movies was The Witch.
That's true. I do think that that's the only thing is I don't think he'd cast her if not for that. My
Mhm.
final pick is one that I'm surprised was still on the board. Inside Out 2.
I didn't even know that was coming out.
It was on the
My
list.
alternative was to be someone else, yeah, or another animated sequel.
I think we're looking at 87 for Inside Out 2. I think
That's
that
going to make a lot of money.
yeah, I think especially considering what the movie is based on the trailer, it is Riley is now a teenager and she's dealing with anxiety and depression.
Mhm.
And there is a new emotion in her head that's anxiety, and it looks like a
Yeah, that's
Fraggle
going
from
to do.
Fraggle Rock, and it's voiced by Maya Hawke. So that is going
That's
to
gonna
make
do.
a ton of money.
Yeah, that's going to do good.
Yeah. What is your alternate pick?
Sonic 3.
That is a bold one
Hmm.
because my reason, like, I'm pumped for Sonic 3 to an unhealthy degree because that movie is going to be Sonic Adventure 2. The post credit scene for Sonic 2 led into Sonic Adventure 2, like how the post leads into All the President's Men.
Oh, all the President's Men. Yeah.
Like I am fairly certain that movie's going to be good. The only thing is, I don't know if it hits its release date. Well, it's your alternate, so it's not a
Yeah.
huge deal.
I guess, yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait. But
Yeah.
maybe, yeah, we'll see.
Um, and the logo for it has the Sonic on top, Shadow on the bottom, like the Sonic
Mhm.
Adventure 2 logo had. So I'm like, they know exactly what they're doing here. It's
Especially for
hitting
Sonic fans.
exactly. It's
They
hitting all
will
the right
analyze it.
parts of the Sonic autism in my brain.
Yeah.
Um, so what's your Metacritic guess for that, and why is it in the mid to low 40s?
I was gonna say 37 for that one.
37. All right. My alternate pick. I was gonna do the 4:30 movie, but I don't think we can really count that because um, they don't report box office from that.
Oh, okay,
That's
that's
Kevin Smith's new movie where most of the money comes from the road show they do.
yeah.
Um, so it'll get a Metacritic, but it won't get a box office. My alternate's gonna be Joker 2.
I was so I yeah, that's a good one. That was the one I was hesitant about taking.
And the reason why it's an alternate is because Joker 2, I think the issue is going to be um, it's a musical.
I think it's gonna be really affected by early reviews.
Exactly.
Like I think if people are like this isn't that good, I think it's just gonna bomb.
Yeah.
I don't think people will see it.
And I don't know it like the audience that Joker resonated with is not gonna resonate with a musical starring Lady Gaga.
Yeah, it's not gonna attract the same. And I don't know if just Lady Gaga being in it is enough of a draw because she's an
Right.
American Horror Story and she's awful in American Horror Story. And
She was really good playing basically herself in A Star Is Born, but she wasn't very
yeah,
good in like House of Gucci.
exactly. Yeah. So it's gonna be weird, I think.
Did you have any others that you didn't pick on your list? Because I had a few that were alternates in the event that you picked any of mine.
I did Godzilla, Kong.
That was on
Uh,
mine toward the bottom.
I have
The
I
trailer
have
for that looks absurd, but I'm here for it.
Ghostbusters,
Oh no, that wasn't even a blip on my radar.
Alien, Alien Romulus.
Oh yeah, that could be good. Isn't that Noah Hawley who did that? The guy who did Legion on FX,
I think so. Yeah,
which is now
I
canon
like
to the MCU.
I pretty much like all of the Alien movies. I know a lot of people hate them, but I like all of them. But I don't know if it will do well because the last few have not done very well.
I think it'll do well at the box office because it kind of is running unopposed for a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I had Venom 3.
Oh yeah, I saw that one too.
Venom 3, I think is and what better movie for post election day than Venom 3? Gladiator 2.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, that Civil War maybe.
I don't think Civil War is going to make back its budget,
I did
and,
not.
and, and I think that it's going to be too centrist. So no matter where you fall on the political spectrum as a critic, it's going to not go far enough in having like if you're going to make a movie called Civil War and have it be about an American Civil War, you have to take a stance.
Yeah.
Like you can't be apolitical about that. You have to pick one side or the other to tell the story from that perspective. And based on the map of the United States, it seems like he's not taking a stance.
Yeah,
So
it seems to be as they're trying to make it as neutral as possible.
which is
But
not going to work for what this movie has to be.
yeah. And then there wouldn't be, if it was like that, there wouldn't be a civil war. Like
Exactly.
it was like the lines that they're drawing. Yeah.
Yeah. And A Quiet Place Day One was another one that I had on my list.
Oh yeah. I'm like a truther about those movies. I do not like those movies at all, and I think they're so overrated.
Yeah,
I think they're so dumb.
I've seen the first one, and on a technical level, I was impressed by the first one. Because it's like it's not a silent movie, and that's the big thing is that it's not a silent movie. It's a movie with no dialogue, so it still is a matter of keeping the set quiet and doing all of that, which is a technical achievement. But beyond that, I wasn't super impressed by it. This year's, but I think the big thing about this year's lists are that there's not as many big franchises to fight over
That is
in the way there was last year.
That is true. Yeah.
Like we had 4 kids movies, and then like art house horror, Dune, and because
I guess Dune is like one of the bigger franchises.
Yeah, which is weird to say. Like,
and it's just a sequel.
Yeah, and it's like I think the biggest movie of the year, if a movie's gonna break $1 billion this year, it's gonna be Deadpool. I don't think there's any other movie that has the potential even to break $1 billion at the box office this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Like and I think the other issue with Sonic and why did you put it as your alternate? I would have tried to talk you out of it if you put it as one of your main picks. Is that because it's coming out so late in December, it wouldn't have its full box office number till after we call it for next year.
Yeah,
because it comes out like the 20th of December, so you'd have 10 days for it to make a theatrical run.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, either way, I don't think any of these get delayed. I don't think.
Yeah,
if it's, I mean, Mean Girls is next week. If is in like 2 months, Dune's in 2 months. Despicable Me is early summer, and Nosferatu I think is also December.
Yeah, that was December, but I don't think that would get delayed.
No. I think at this because they're shooting it now, so that'll be done. And I don't think any of mine are going to get delayed at this point because now that the strikes are done, unless there is the animation. No, even the animation guild wouldn't affect movies going on strike this year. It would only affect next year. So we're good. I don't think we're going to have any delays, but we still have the alternates just in case. Do you have any predictions for 2024 before we wrap up for the day?
No, there's nothing really, I guess, that I can think of.
I think we're looking at a big Comic-Con this year. That's my big prediction.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm horrible with keeping up with that kind of stuff, or like what might be happening with those.
Yeah, I think we're looking at a big Comic-Con because of the strikes. I think we're looking at big CinemaCon, big Comic-Con. I think we get a Deadpool trailer, Super Bowl Sunday. I think Super Bowl could be a big trailer day in general because I could see them putting out a new footage of Dune.
Yeah, I hope so.
A new Furiosa trailer.
There's no really good commercials anymore during the Super Bowl, so
I think. See, that's the thing is that I think I talked to you about it. Like the Oscars should do that, like how the Game Awards have all the trailers for the new games coming.
Yeah,
like the Oscars should just have like here's all the movies coming out this year because you're a vested interest audience anyway. So
if you're watching the Oscars.
Yeah, so I think we're looking at a lot of big stuff because Marvel delayed all their stuff to next year with the exception of Deadpool 3. Everything else is coming next year. Star Wars, we're gonna get. I think we start production on the new Jedi Order movie this year, and Celebration is going to have video from set. And I think San Diego Comic-Con, we're going to get a big Hall H panel from Marvel and DC. I think both of them are going to come out and be like, look, we understand things have gone to shit in the last few years. We're righting the ship. Gunn's going to come out. He's going to bring the big guns, no pun intended. He's going to be like, here is the cast of Superman. Here is, here's what we're doing. Here's casting for Batman. Here's casting for Lanterns, and here are our release dates. Here we're setting concrete dates and things. Marvel's like, look, we overexpanded. We're cutting back. Here are the projects we're cutting back. Here's the release slate for the rest of phases 5 and 6. We're sorry we fucked up. Here's everything else that's coming. And then Sony's just gonna do their best to sink the genre before any of this happens, because they got Madam Web and Craven and Venom 3.
Craven looks so bad.
Yeah, my favorite part of Craven the Hunter is when he has lion's blood that lets him talk to animals like Eliza Thorne.
Yeah, because famously lions can speak with every other animal.
That's true. Yeah, so I think we're looking at a good year in terms of announcements, and I think that again the strikes totally screwed everything up a little bit. But it worked out for everyone except for the studios, so it's a good thing.
Who cares?
Exactly, they have enough money. But we'll wrap up there for today. You're definitely coming back for the Dune episode. We got to do a post Dune Part 2 episode in March.
Yeah, it could be I come if they mess it up. There's a chance it's messed up, and I come back enraged. But
I don't think that's the case. I've only heard anyone who has seen Dune who has spoken about it has been like, no, like Villeneuve is completely right. This movie is bigger and better than the last one.
Yeah,
Apparently Villeneuve was not
trailer. It seems like that they did a good job restraining themselves, I think, in the first one to set up everything, and
yeah.
Now it's going to be like the finale.
Oh yeah, that trailer they're airing now, where it's him when he uses the voice on the Bene Gesserit woman. Every time I get chills.
That was my favorite part, because that in the book that's almost exactly how it's like represented. It's perfect.
Yeah,
and even in the David Lynch one, they do it very well.
That movie is going to be like that's going to be next year. I will call it right now. That's going to be our #1 movie. I feel like. When we do this next year.
I'm obviously biased, but I think it will.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be that and Furiosa gonna be battling for #1.
And they did announce they're making Messiah too. It's just
yes,
like, not
2027.
They want to let everyone age.
Yeah, because it's Villeneuve is doing Rendezvous with Riva before that too.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna read that before it comes out.
How would you feel about him doing Thor 4 in between as well? Would that bring you back, or Thor 5? Would that bring you back into Marvel to see Denis Villeneuve?
I'll probably watch. Yeah, give it a chance. Just I watched Thor 3. I think I might have
Ragnarok was the one. The last one you can skip. The last one was awful.
Yeah, Ragnarok I watched. That was good.
Yeah, Love and Thunder was a shame because
it's like they do the same thing where this director did a pretty good job. Okay, let's give him free reign to do whatever he wants, and then
no, that was a bad. There had to have been some constraints on him for Ragnarok. There's no way they let him go full Taiko on that one, and oh god. But we'll be back with that in the near future, and I feel like we're also going to be doing Mad Max. I feel like you're going to want to come back from Mad Max.
Oh yeah, I love all the Mad Max movies.
Those movies are fantastic, and this is going to be another one. But we'll be back with that later on in the year. Josie couldn't be with us today because she had to work because of the snowstorm, because she lives north of the Arctic Circle. Christ. But we'll be back with that. Until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.